This election, I do strongly believe, is about two very different visions for our nation. One, ours, focused on the future, and the other, focused on the past. We see that contrast clearly in many ways, including when it comes to how we think about the economy.
Please welcome Mike De Los Santos, owner of Mike D's Barbecue Smokehouse.
We opened Mike D's in 2013 as a barbecue sauce company. During the pandemic, we had to pivot as things shut down, and we've expanded to the restaurant that we are in now. We saw the way that Trump left small business owners behind. We know that he'll only work to make the rich richer, even at our expense, if given another chance. On the other hand, Vice President Harris has made it a priority to help small business access the capital they need to get started and to grow.
Our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. At that time, we sadly remember the millions of Americans that were out of work. We were facing one of the worst economic crises in modern history. And today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world. We have created 16 million new jobs. Inflation is down under 3%. And as President of the United States, it will be my intention to build on the foundation of this progress.
Do your homework, black people.
Hold up. Let me just tell you something right here that could be very historic. And Kay pointed this out to me. If Kamala Harris is elected, she would be sworn in.
She could be sworn
on
in
MLK Day
by the first black Supreme Court
and possibly by Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
Does
Stop
that
it.
not give you chills?
Come on
Stop
now.
it.
Does that not send
Maria,
just make your whole body vibrate?
Oh my God,
Game
that just
changer.
gave me chills. That gave me
Rakeem.
chills.
Game changer, dog.
Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, where we remove the barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so. We will support smaller businesses that are trying to play by the rules and get ahead.
Do y'all realize Medgar Evers died for voting rights?
The great John Lewis.
Right. John Lewis and Ralph Abernathy.
Abernathy.
All of these people that have paved the way for us. We
They
are the
didn't-
new civil rights leaders. We got to get behind people like Ben Crump and Kamala Harris and all these people out here that's doing, like Roland Martin and all of these people that's out here, and Joy Reid. If you want to be educated, if you really want to know the truth, all you got to do is turn to MSNBC and watch Joy Reid, and she gonna give you a whole history lesson every night on MSNBC, and then after that, Rachel Maddow. All you gotta do is just watch it.
And it's not opinion, it's facts.
That's history. This is what Dr. King died for. This is what Medgar Evers died for. This is what Rosa Parks went to jail for. All of the sacrifices that black people had to make. Your grandmother's cleaning up white people's house and cleaning and scrubbing floors and doing all of this stuff. All these black people made all these sacrifices for us. Well, we can have this opportunity, and then you get a woman, now you want to question her race and question her ability and all this stuff. Why? Why are we doing this? Why are we like this?
As president, I will bring together labor with small businesses and major companies to create good jobs, achieve broad-based growth, and ensure that America continues to define the future and lead the world.
I'm with her. A vote for her. If you sit at home and you don't support her, you are definitely supporting Donald Trump. You can vote for who you want to, but don't be trying to encourage other people and sit up there and put bad stuff. Where's that same energy for Donald Trump?
Key to creating this opportunity economy is building up our middle class. And to protect it then, we must defend basic principles, such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life. No child should have to grow up in poverty. You should be able to retire with dignity. And you should be able to join a union if you choose. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. I will focus on lowering the cost of living.
As a black man, I stand proudly with Kamala Harris this morning with tears in my eyes. It means so much to me. Do you know that lady picked up the phone and called me when my son died? How about that? How about how personal her and Joe Biden has been? How about Joe Biden wrote me a letter naming my grandkids and naming my son's name in a personal handwritten letter? How kind, how thoughtful, how genuine, they're just genuine and sincere. And I love people like that. These are kind, loving people. If you look at their policy, you'll know what's going on. We need to stop, black people. Stop it. Stop attacking Kamala Harris. Stop it with the self-hatred.
When I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, I will take on the cost of food. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't. And that's just not right. And we need to take action when that is the case. In California, I went after companies that illegally increased prices, that conspired with competitors to keep prices of electronics high. I won more than $1 billion for consumers. As president, I will go after the bad actors, and I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
I think you can Google what have Kamala Harris done for the black community, or things that black people benefit from a lot. We need to stand with her. And what a blessing to be living in a time where a black woman can become president of the United States of America. In our time, we get a black man and a black woman become president. That's unheard of.
Come on, man.
Stop it.
Messy. Be on the right side of history. Be on the right side of history.
2 months ago, I announced that medical debt will no longer be used against your credit score. And I will work as president to cancel medical debt for more and more, millions more Americans. As president, I'll take on the issue of the cost of health care. As Attorney General, I took on insurance companies and Big Pharma and got them to lower their prices. We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month, and just yesterday, we announced that we are lowering the price by up to 80% for 10 more life-saving drugs.
Raising family is hard work, and working hard is hard work. Doing both can feel impossible, and we need leaders that understand that, and that's why electing Kamala Harris is so important. At Mike D's, we're all about community. But as housing costs rise, it's getting harder and harder for our community to thrive. And though I love what I do, it's hard to build a business and work hard in a city that sometimes you can't even afford to live in yourself, especially when you're working hard to make sure that your employees make a living wage. I've seen how important it is to have leaders who are fighting for people like us, and I've seen the damage that occurs when leaders put their own interests ahead of our families.
As State Attorney General, I drafted and helped pass a homeowner Bill of Rights. There's a serious housing shortage. In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up. As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels. We will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. My administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home, all to help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security that it represents and brings.
I should be voting for Trump with the tax bracket that I'm in, but if I have to pay more taxes in order to do what's right, just where somebody else can have food in their mouth and do the right thing or whatever, I want to be on the right side of history. And I'm not just saying that, man. I've been out here on the trail, civil rights movement since '79 when Benita Carter got killed, shot in the back by a white police officer. I've been a lifetime member of the NAACP and the SELCI. I'm on regular text messages and calls with civil rights leaders all over the country. I've been involved. I do comedy and crack jokes on stage, but you don't know what I do behind the scenes. I was behind the scenes when Barack Obama ran. I was behind the scenes in the Bill Clinton campaign, in the Al Gore campaign, in the Joe Biden campaign. My whole life, even when I wasn't even old enough to vote. When I wasn't old enough to vote, I was still behind the scenes working just where I can leave something to my kids and the generation after that, doing my part.
You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for. Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans. 2 days ago, Donald Trump was here in North Carolina. He said he was going to talk about the economy, but he offered no serious plans to reduce costs for middle-class families. No plan to expand access to housing or health care. And that, actually, I think for most of us, was not surprising.
I'm just sick of the black people on the internet talking about I'm not with her. Okay, so if you're not with her, that means you with Trump. And y'all need to block every last one of their asses on Facebook and on Instagram and social media and stop. Like, that's just garbage.
Yeah.
It's just garbage.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Whoo! Hey, whoo! I like that new intro. That was dope. I like that. The first thing I want to say is these communists killing y'all. The policies don't match. Yeah, that's right. They're communists. That's what they are. They are communists. My name is Quisha King. I am one of your hosts. Welcome to Cutting Through the Culture. Let's get right into this. That was a lot to digest in the montage. Let's go on and get my good comedian friend, co-host on the stage, Mr. Blanchard Robinson. Oops.
What's up, Quisha?
What's up? What's up? What do you think about the montage?
I have one question. If you have all these plans now, then why didn't y'all do this for these past 4 years? It's funny to me that every time they were questioned about the shape of America, they said it was great and wonderful. But now during election time, it has to be fixed. So wait a minute. Y'all been saying for the past 3 years that America's been great, economy booming. We fixed everything that Trump did wrong. Now that you're running for president, though, now you got work to do. Now you're going to do this. It's all cap. It's all cap.
Yeah, agreed. Let's bring up our good intellectual brother, Mr. Chuck Littleton. Oh, what's up?
How you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Ready to rock and roll.
Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all right. Anything else you
want
to say?
I want. Well, we'll get into the particulars as we move through the show.
All right.
What real quick, Keisha, what bothers me is just the I don't know, the fact that you go about life, right? You're going to the bank, you're going to the grocery store, gas station, whatever you're doing, and The scary part about it is that the people cheering there, you talk about how I've seen people doing forensic breakdowns of how her crowd sizes have been doctored and all that stuff, right? But set that aside for a second. It's scary to think that you live amongst people who are seemingly normal, who just would hear something like that and they applaud, they cheer, they clap, they have no issue whatsoever. Uh, the fact that we live among people who think that it is okay for young boys and young girls to transition themselves into the opposite sex if they even choose to be quote unquote cisgendered, because of course gender is not only is it fluid, right? I mean it's fluid, hence it's not binary. The scary part about it is that there are people you live amongst who seem normal who actually believe these things. It's a scary time that we live in. This woman, like I said before on the show we did right after Trump was assassinated, that the Democrat Party is a revolutionary communist party. There is no denying that. There is no mistaking that, and it's quite troublesome that enough people in this country just they believe it, or they don't see an issue with it. So much so to the point where we're sitting back wondering how things are going to turn out in November. Of course, a fair election, Trump would beat her down the same way in which he won in 2020. But you can't trust that everything is going to be on the up and up. All right. But if you had enough Americans with decent amount of sense, then we would beyond the margin. We would be beyond the margin of theft. But there are enough idiots among us. That's my main takeaway, without getting into the details, is that people really believe this stuff. It's a shame.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Let's bring on our fearless leader, Mr. Chad O. Jackson. My hands are off, Chad. Go ahead. You
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, when you were talking, I was doing the switching, so you didn't have to multitask. How are you, Quisha?
I'm good. I'm tired. My baby girl, her 16th birthday is today, so it's been quite a day. I had to come home taking a little nap, so I'm trying to, get myself together. But I'm planning this wedding. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot, but we're here. I'm ready to talk about these communists, though, and all this stuff. That montage was heavy. It was heavy.
Are you throwing a sweet 16?
We did a little something, we did something appropriate for her. So, yeah.
If you had boys, what would your coming of age be for them?
Oh gosh, I have no.
Your rite of passage.
I have no idea. I don't have boys. That's the question for my little sister, who has 5 boys. They have 5, and I let them. They'll in a couple of years they'll be doing that. So, but I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how to. What I don't know. Boy, I guess boys don't have sweet 16, so I don't know. I hope they don't.
Chuck, what is a appropriate, I guess, rite of passage or coming into manhood age? Does it go by age in your household, or does it go by something else?
That's I never thought about that. I mean, I've raised one girl. I have 2 more that I have to get to adulthood. My son is my youngest, and I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I'm trying to reflect on my life. I don't think I had that rite of passage moment. Like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. That's a good question.
Somebody said, get a job, boy. Rite of passage.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't have that either growing up. I didn't have we grew up really poor, so I ain't have all of that stuff. It was.
Well, Blanchard said that his grandpa used to take him fishing and stuff. I know a lot of boys don't really get that luxury these days. So,
I went fishing a few times. I don't know, buy him his first shotgun or something, Take them hunting. But I'm not an outdoorsy guy. You know, I'm a city boy, so I'm not really with it. You know? But yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have a series of events.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, like you gotta change the oil, change the tire, catch a fish. You know, you're gonna have a whole, you know, get a girl's number. You know, you're gonna have a whole thing.
Blanche is gonna have a be a man triathlon.
So,
yeah.
Right.
So wait, so Blanche, will you let him do those things before? Like, will you start him doing those things before 16?
Yeah, you know, you got to raise them up, and then the final test is gonna be at 16. You know, you got to pass the test. So we're gonna have a series of, you know, push-ups. Got to be able to run a certain, you know, distance. You know, all these things. Can you survive in a post-apocalyptic society? That's gonna
I was gonna say that, Blanche. Drop him off in the middle of the hood and see if he make it back home.
No
Come
phone.
back, you know.
That's actually
remember that.
That's actually really good.
You see, I remember how they depicted how the Spartans would train their boys in the movie 300. It was closely related to reality too. Just how, you know, he got to come home with somebody's chain or somebody's shoes or something, you know.
Or really just come on with your own stuff back intact. You know, just don't get your stuff.
Come on with your own stuff.
But real quick, real quick. So one of the things that stuck out, because I actually watched the entirety of Kamala Harris's economic plan, the speech that she gave there in North Carolina, and one of the things that stuck out to me was the fact that she mentioned Project 2025 at least 2 times. I think either 2 or 3 times, and each time she ascribed it to Trump. She called it Trump's Project 2025, which is very fascinating to me because, you know, we all know that Project 2025, which belongs to the Heritage Foundation, is a completely different entity than the Trump campaign. The Heritage Foundation, for those of you who don't know, is a think tank in the same way that the Brookings Institute is a think tank, that Cato Institute is a think tank. Some of these uber leftist think tanks have existed since the turn of the 20th century, and they exist to study human behavior, to create policy, and to lobby that policy. And they write much of the legislation that comes to the House and Senate floor, especially on the left side of the political spectrum, but also too on the right side of the political spectrum. I would say the biggest think tank in the world right now is the World Economic Forum, because they influence not only policy in America, but policy globally. And so it's interesting because, you know, what Kamala Harris did throughout that entire speech is gaslight. And she especially gaslit when she tries to ascribe Project 2025 to Trump, when in reality, everything that she laid out is indicative of Agenda 2030, which is brought to you by none other than the World Economic Forum. And so while they accuse the right of implementing policies that are reminiscent of a think tank, they silently enforce policies and implement policies that are reminiscent of the World Economic Forum. The thing I'll say before we get started with the show is when you look at the fact that Biden passed the so-called American Recovery Act or something like that, I think that's what it was called, a $1.9 trillion bill that was passed on a partisan basis. What this did was it dispersed cash amongst the American public. And in so doing, they drove up demand. And because this disincentivized work, it drove down supply. When you have an increase of demand and a decrease of supply, guess what happens? Inflation. As the same month that they passed this bill, that they passed this law, inflation overtook wages. That's when you began to see a spike in the cost of goods and a spike in the cost of services. And so this is a direct result of bad economic policies vis-a-vis the Biden administration, which Kamala Harris is a part of. So so when I say that she's gaslighting, it's resoundingly true, because here she is talking about going after price gouging, and she wants to go after the grocers who are increasing prices, when the fact is the reason why the prices are what they are is because of the administration that she is currently a part of. So this is gaslighting 101. You saw, I mean, we'll get into it more and more, but I'm very happy to be here tonight and happy to get into this because a lot of people have been complaining that Kamala Harris hasn't come up with any policies. If you go to her website, there's no policies there. And she's responding to those criticisms by now going on the speaking tour where she's rolling out different plans and different policies that she have in place. And you can see you can see through these plans and policies that she's a Marxist. And I'll end my little opening by saying this, that I don't believe that these people I don't think that their ignorance of how economics works is an excuse. I think they know fully well how inflation works. I think they know fully well that when you drive up demand and drive down supply, that equals inflation. I think they want for the economy to implode. Especially in her speech, you can see that she's taking advantage of people's ignorance, right? Because most people don't understand that, but they understand that to the extent that you give out money, that drives up demand, drives down supply. It causes the economy to implode. And when that happens, they can point to the producer and say it's their fault. They're the ones who are price gouging. They're the ones that and people go for it to Chuck's point, where he said there's enough people who are ignorant enough to where these politicians are able to do the kind of trickery that they're doing. They want the economy to implode because that creates a crisis. When there's a crisis, people are looking for solutions. And when people are looking for solutions, they look to politicians. And then you have there waiting, ready to go, folks like Kamala Harris, who has the answers, even though they caused the crisis to begin with. They're trying to recreate the same thing, the same conditions that put FDR into office, where they were able to unleash this kind of government overhaul, moving our government more and more to becoming a Marxist regime in their quest toward globalism. So anyway, I'm happy to get into this conversation. I think it'll be a good one.
Absolutely. So I was on the shade room.
What were you about to say something, Chuck?
Yeah, I was going to say something in response to what you just said. This is another thing that it just, y'all about to get me started already. This really pisses me off that, you hear people talking about, well, she has yet to reveal her economic policy. When is the media going to ask her a tough question? When is she going to do a real interview and such and so forth? Why? What in the hell does Kamala Harris need to tell you that you should know already? It reminds me of the exact same thing that was said after Biden so-called won the election in 2020. I remember seeing all of these mainstream articles from people displaying their quote unquote voters' remorse. Voters' remorse was the word they were using, as if, these folks who voted for Biden were shocked at what he was doing. They couldn't believe what he was doing. They didn't vote for that. They claimed. I didn't vote for Joe Biden to do that. Man, it makes me angry. People just come around. I voted for Biden in 2020, but I'm going all in on Trump this time around. It's like, all right, good, cool. I hope it's true. Go ahead and do what the hell you got to do. I don't want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it because we shouldn't even be in this mess. This is your fault. So I don't want because if I have to say I told you so, it's gonna be too late. I don't need your apologies. I don't need nothing. Just go ahead on about your business and do what you got to do. Why in the hell does Joe Biden or Kamala Harris need to tell you anything? If you want to know what the Democrat Party and insert whatever a stick figure politician you want, you should know what the left stands for. All you got to do is go back to Mao and a great leap forward, go back to Vladimir Lenin and Joseph Stalin, it's all right there for everybody to see. What the hell does Kamala Harris need to tell you? She don't have to say a word to me. What do you mean she needs to tell us what she's about? She needs to tell us what she's for. I'm just, man. And like I said, it's not even Kamala Harris. I am upset at so many Americans, quite frankly. It is hard for me to really maintain my maintain civility, and just to be.
But what would you say, Chuck, is a cause for so much ignorance amongst the American populace?
I mean, wow.
Do you think there's a singular reason? Do you think it's accumulation of things? What would you say? I think
it's a multitude. I think it's a multitude of things. just the shift in the American mindset. But there's a multitude of things. I don't even know if we have time to get to them. I certainly can't just outline them in just one monologue. But there are a multitude of things. It's just shocking. It's shocking. Chad, I know you're working on a film right now. It is what it is. I wish that it could have been released prior to the election because people really, really, really need to see it. But it's crazy, man. And I just wonder how many people who didn't know before, who may, for example, come across your channel, Chad, or come across some of our content individually, and it has actually made an effect that has actually changed someone. And this is a question that I'd like to put to the chat, to the audience as well. Because I think most of us here already know. I know that I send stuff to our shows. I send them to people who are questioning, who are on the fringes, who don't quite know exactly what's going on, but they may be curious. Because I'm really trying to change at least one person, 2 if I can, 3 if I can, to try and make a small difference. Because I just want to know sometimes. I just wonder these things. How many people are we actually affecting? But yeah, Chad, I think it's a multitude of things. So
I know Quisha would argue that the reason why people are the way they are is because of education. And I would agree with that. I think that's a huge part of it because people are actively being indoctrinated to be dumb just when it comes to our founding and what a republic is and what it takes to keep that republic. But I think it's twofold. I think it's a spiritual issue as well. I think the rapid decline of just Christian faith in this country is also part of it as well. And then too, Chuck, I know you'll agree with this, the subversion of the church vis-a-vis Marxism. This is also the reason for just this mass stupidity that we see. I don't know. What do you think, Blanche?
I think that the main issue is character. The Bible says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And knowledge, if you think about it, is basically just knowing where the ledge is. But knowledge is character-based because you should know. And I think a lot of times people want to plead ignorance as a way to stay safe or to not have any responsibility. So to me, it's a character issue. When you're looking at a candidate, everybody talks about words like research, and even Ricky Smiley was saying, look it up. He said you can go to Google, all this stuff. But you think about it, he's saying the right thing though, because he's saying that don't take my word for it, go research. And so a person, if they really cared, they would do the research. But I'm telling you that the reason why folks are ignorant is by choice. Even the law says ignorance of the law is no excuse because it's your job to know. And so people hide behind ignorance. So again, when they hear Kamala Harris speaking, they know what she's saying sounds crazy, but that's weighed against, do they want to see a quote unquote black Hindi in office? So the character thing says, I want to know what's going on, know what she's about. The non-character thing says, I just want to stick it to Donald Trump. And I believe that Donald Trump last election, it was really about sticking it to the rich white man. Most of the commentary you see, and you even hear her talking, these economic plans that she's talking about is really just revenge on white people. And so at the end of the day, I don't think that it's a intelligence issue or lack of information issue. It's a character issue because people that don't want to know, they do it by choice. We've been in school. We know kids that didn't want to open the book up. We know people didn't want to do, like we've seen people before. Now you got a whole nation of them. Now you got a whole nation of people that are lazy and don't want to do it because doing the research would do what? It would shatter the bubble. So people want to stay in la la land. They want to plead ignorance. And so I think it's a character issue that is tied to spirituality because God's people will perish because they don't have character, because they should know and they don't want to.
Hey, do we have some moderators in the chat? Anybody that can, because I know Chad and Quisha, y'all can try. Get Cherry Wood punk ass out of here. I'm not dealing with that tonight. You talking too slick, homeboy. Don't talk about my son. Don't mention my family. Get his punk ass out of here. I ain't in the mood for it tonight. Get him out of here. Cherry Wood, get his punk ass out of here. I'm not in the mood tonight. Just get him out. And thank you.
Done. Okay. So I was gonna let's see who said, oh, Patrina. I was just gonna say I was on the Shade Room. I did a live TikTok on the Shade Room, and we were
Go ahead.
Well, I felt like it was an opportunity to. So here's how I look at things. You have a group of people who are woefully ignorant. They are not trying to know anything. They are completely in the cult. They care not to know anything else. And then you have a group of people who are truly trying to learn. My goal was to try to reach those people, however many they may be. And we were talking about Project 2025, which obviously we knew that was going to come up, and I was explaining to them how it was a think tank. It reminded me when Chad was speaking about this, and I was telling them the left has think tanks, the right has think tanks, and just because a think tank comes up with policy, that doesn't mean that it's going to be adopted. You know what I mean? And I said it still would have to go through Congress and the Senate. It would still have to go through the same process that any other bill would have to go through, any other legislation. And I was like, just like if it's in a committee, like before, when it's just a regular, when a committee comes up with policy or legislation, and the Democrat former senator who was on there, it was, forcing her to agree. And she was like, yeah, we do have APEC and we have, these think tanks. And it kind of, it resets the conversation when you're giving people truth. And so when you can, I don't mind going into those kind of spaces so we can do stuff like that on a major level, because I know we know things that the left and the right have think tanks, and that, what the Heritage Foundation is, and explaining those things, but a lot of people don't know. And I could tell, even though it was a virtual event, I could tell the energy changed for a little bit, and they were, oh, okay, like giving them new things to think about. And so I don't think it's a waste to have those conversations and elevate it to truth, where you're not just going like tit for tat, and showing them that the left has these things too, because they really didn't know that. I could tell they really didn't know that.
Oh. The idea for think tanks originated with the left. Like, what are we even talking about?
But I mean,
you're right, Quisha.
I don't know where think tanks originated from, but I know both sides have them. And a lot of people don't even know that it's something that exists. First of all, they don't even know what they are. They don't know how the legislation, how, things come to be, bills and legislation. They need to go back to Schoolhouse Rock.
And that's a very good point that you bring up, Quisha, because the thing is, like, anybody could run for Congress. Like, any old body can run for Congress. Mm-hmm. These aren't people who are especially studied in policy and domestic issues and foreign issues and the economy. And like, these aren't know-it-all people. These are just average Joes, some of whom were groomed for politics, are career politicians like Joe Biden, some of whom, have a background in business, some of whom have a background in activism, so on and so forth. And the fact is, when it comes to the policies that are pushed, these are policies that are born in think tanks. They just are. In Texas, we have the Texas Public Policy Foundation. This is the organization. It's a think tank that is the brain trust behind many of the policies that come through the Texas state legislature. So yes, think tanks are the ones who spend their days studying public policy, studying human behavior, getting a feel for what would be voted on versus what won't be voted on. And these are the ones who write policy that they then give to legislators, and then the legislators put their names on the bill as if it's their own, and then the rest is history. It's not as if AOC and her genius is coming up with these policies. No, they are born out of think tanks. This is just the way that the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick? So Quisha, So say you go to the shade room and you educate the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what you say checks out. Let's just say that they went back and they did the research, as Ricky Smiley said, and they went through everything you said and it checked out. Everything she said was true. What do you think the next phase is for the person?
It depends on the person. Honestly, it's not a one size fits all. You know, for me, when I was hit with new information, I kept digging because it was the information that I was met with was so contrary to what I had ever known. You know, I was like, it was just like, oh, let me see what else, because I mean, I'm just a curious person like that. So for other people, you know, it might be something else. They might, you know, try to share it with someone talk them down and them not being strong enough and they throw the whole thing out the window. You know, you never know. So I don't know. To me, it just depends on the person.
But that's my point though. So my point I'm trying to tell you is that when you give somebody the truth, they either have to accept it or reject it. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm saying. It's not about ignorance. It's not like people don't know. It's a situation where how much is this truth you're giving me going to affect my life? Is it going to make my family reject me? Am I going to lose my social circles? Am I going to be able to talk at work? Like, so people weigh their life with the truth. And so if you come on there and you say, well, Trump didn't think about it. Trump not doing Project 2025 is a major thing. So that means that every circle they're in says that Project 2025 is Trump's. You come and say it's not, and you prove that it's not. Now they got to go back to that same circle and be the outcast. They're not going to do it. That's why I'm saying it's really a spiritual, character, moral issue. It ain't that people don't know. It's just that how much of Quisha's truth, and this you in the belly of the beast, how much of Quisha's truth in the shade room is going to affect my life. My friend just told me it was a guy at the bar talking to some young ladies, and then they asked them, they raving about Kamala, and they asked him, okay, well, who you voting for? He says Trump. Now the other guy is voting for Trump too. Mm-hmm. Table full of women. He supported Trump. What do you think he said when the women turned to him and said, who you voting for? You think he stood on his 10 toes and said, I'm voting for Trump with his chest out? No. He did the most despicable thing. I'm voting for Kamala. So again, these people, it ain't an intelligence, I don't know thing. It's a when they get the truth, how do they respond to it? They go, I'm telling you, they know that the truth that we say on this show is going to drastically change their regular life. They know it. They can't go to the cookout, they can't go to the party, they can't. I'm telling you, it's go because most black folks, they're gonna be even libtards, they're gonna be brainwashed.
No, I agree that most people will reject the truth. The Bible says, you know, oh God, I'm about to mess up the truth. Broad is the way, but narrow is oh Lord, y'all know the scripture I'm talking about. Yeah. It's a lot of people that's gonna be going the wrong way. Basically, that's the point.
Broad is the road and narrow is the gate.
There we go. So I understand, and I do believe that many people will reject truth, but for me, I take what we do as like missionary work, and even though they may reject it, but you heard it though, and it's not going to be when I stand before the King of Kings. It's not going to be on me that I didn't say anything, because I knew most of them would reject it, because I believe that we are here for such a time as this. I believe that God has put us on this path to influence those who will hear. And we don't know who, you know, we're one part of that process. You know, God says one sower, one sows, one plants, one waters, but God gives the increase. So we might be the planter or the waterer, but God in the end is going to give the increase. And so I'm planting and watering. I'm just planting, you know, so I don't know who or when God is going to do what he does, when or who he's going to do it for. But I know it will be righteously done, and I don't have to worry about that part. I'm just here to give you the truth, and you can do with it what you, because I've had people in my DMs. I've had people say, thank you so much. You've opened my eyes to stuff. I used to be this, or I had no idea. And so those things really encourage me to keep going. because you never know where that seed is, what ground that seed is going to fall on, because it's not really our business. It's just our business is to just tell it, tell the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, Quisha, the truth convicts. Like I told you when we texting, I said, man, them people up there, they just props. They just foils. And, you know, if I ever find myself in a similar situation, like I've said, I'm not coming in there to play games with these people. I'm not your friend. You know, Charlemagne and the rest of them. If I ever find myself in these predicaments, I'm not your friend. I'm going right through you. I'm going through you. And I'm going to speak directly to your audience, right? You're just a prop, but I'm going straight through you. And you know, you gotta try and move the people. You know, gotta move them with your words and your conviction, and you know, you gotta have the courage of your convictions, as they say. So I don't know, Quisha. When is there a way we can watch your appearance? What was it, like a live stream or something? Because it was allowed, so it went to the memory hole. It's no way we can watch it.
Yeah, what I wanted to do was record it on my phone and be live on my computer, but the way the live thing was set up, I couldn't do that, and so I wasn't prepared. But I would have recorded it on my phone if I don't know. But the producers and stuff were like, we really like having this conversation, because they were, you know, obviously it was like 6 against 1 because they were letting.
Did they tell you that it was going to be 6 against 1? Because the way that the thumbnail or the little
you one person.
I'm just going to thumbnail. The way the little flyer read, it appeared as if there's one moderator, one individual, and then yourself. This lady representing the left and you representing the so-called right.
Right.
But then you tell me that there's 6v1, and it's like, it seems to me like a bait and switch. Was that? Did you know that there will be 6 people against you?
Well, they let people up from the audience, and so the people from the audience were all on the left. And so when they asked, they said, "Anybody want to come on to back Quisha up?" I mean, they asked, but here's the thing: this is how you know a lot of these, you know, Republican conservatives are cowards.
Well, wait, hold on. Did they ask your permission before they just let people up?
They said it in the email that they were going to get feedback from the audience or something like that. So I was expecting for people from the audience to come up, and there were people chatting like Quisha's right, or I agree with her. Quisha makes a lot of sense, but none of them would go on camera and say it. And so that's nothing new. You know, I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised because a lot of conservative Republicans, whatever, are cowards. They are cowards, and they don't want to stand 10 toes down on what you believe. That's why you can't let the party stuff be your guiding thing. It's not a guiding thing for me. And I told them that night, I said, when they try to do, oh, you're a Republican, I said, first of all, my allegiance is to the lamb, not a donkey or an elephant. So miss me with that. Don't even insult. I did get a little heated because just because I happen to be Republican, like that automatically makes me not credible, but you're on the left and that gives you all the credibility. No, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. Don't insult me. So that kind of settled everything. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're not one of them just towing the line. We're not going to do that.
Not like them.
The shade room, for those of you who don't know about it, has 30 million followers on IG. I'm not sure what their TikTok number is, but basically it's what it is
3 million.
Yeah, it's a kind of I mean, how would you explain this? This is basically, for those of you who don't know, it's a gossip blog. It's a black news outlet, as it were. I mean, you see on their highlights, they got thick house. I'm sure I know what that means, something sexual and provocative. They got the communist fists on here. I mean, this is what the shade room is, just a bunch of gossip and debauchery and degeneracy and decadence. And
all the D's.
All the D's. So
to be honest, Quisha, I probably, I mean, I know you had told us you were doing it, and I'm gonna support you, but I was like, there's no way, because I can't sit through stuff like that. I can't, because when I hear something, it stays with me. It stays with me for hours, if not days. And that's why I have to just tune a lot of stuff out. I don't do a lot of posting on social media. I don't do a lot of activities on social media because I just can't. But yeah, Quisha, man, I'd have been in there. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that DMX song on it on Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood? That would have been my, I mean, you said you didn't know you was going up against 6 before you got there, the way it kind of played out. But yeah, I'd have had
I
that.
didn't know it was gonna be like. I didn't know it was gonna be like that with all of them kind of all going at one time. I didn't know exactly how it was gonna be.
Yeah, you remember that song? I just love when you bring a soul crew. It's a bigger piece of cake for me that you will hold through. Man, oh my gosh, 6. Give me 12. Give me 6 more. Man, that's crazy, dude.
It was a whole studio, Quisha. It was a whole studio.
But you know what though? Like behind the scenes, and I won't, they were like, wow, you held your own. That was tough, but you held it down. Because I believe I'm not ashamed of what I believe. I know what I believe. I'm not there's none of this. I'm not ambiguous on none of this stuff. And so, and I don't think you can't quite come at me like you would come at, someone who does this for the party first, like that. Their whole thing is the party. That's a whole nother thing. You can't come at me like that. So, they had to adjust. Yes, go ahead, adjust yourselves accordingly. But you're gonna treat me with some respect.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So, no, but I understand, Chuck. I hadn't kind of really been in a battle like that since really like the Roland Martin thing. So it was, but that's how it is. I like to debate. I like to debate.
That's what I'm saying. Like they scared to just. Yeah, like they scared to just, like Blanche was saying, that's crazy. Just the level of the cowardice. How much people just, it's like, what you gonna do to me, man? I said, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously.
Nothing. They not finna go grapes. I'm telling you, the keyboard warriors, as most of these people are, not like the Antifa type, because Antifa they about that life. Now they about that life. They coming to burn it down. Now it's another group of people. All they do is talk. That's all they about. Like all you doing is talking. You're not finna do nothing. You're really not.
But careful in giving Antifa too much credit, because they show up with their faces covered. They don't want to reveal their identity. They too are cowards.
Only strong in numbers, like
right. And not only that, but they're paid. They're paid agitators. Let's not get it twisted. It's not like they're just showing up on their own volition. I mean, some of them are true believers, yes, that's to be sure. But yeah, they're paid agitators. And I liken them to the Weather Underground, the Weathermen, who, I mean, they're different than the Weather Underground insofar that the Weathermen were genuine believers in what they were doing. They were bombing government buildings. They were causing terror and wreaking havoc. But I wouldn't even put Antifa on that level, because they're paid. They're paid agitators.
Yeah, but
they're not bombing buildings and all the things, but they are showing up in force, and they are rioting and all the things, but they aren't as bold as the Weathermen. I mean, the Weathermen, like, they were literally gone after and jailed, and then when they got out of jail, they had jobs waiting for them at colleges and universities.
Right. So. Those were the ones that actually. Those were the ones that actually went, Chad. Most of them did not. The bulk of them never seen a day in a prison or a jail. You have now, these cat, like Quisha mentioned, Antifa, and I got something for them too. They ain't gonna come around these parts. But anyway, let me stop flexing. There's a guy, I just want to put you guys up on him. To me, I mean, he is one of the most, and I haven't even heard his name mentioned by many. Surprised he wasn't covered in the in Chad's film Uncle Tom 2. Maybe he'll get some FaceTime in Uncle Tom 3. And he, to me, I mean, he is literally like an international criminal. Last time I checked, I think he was living in Paris, France. He is the current chairman of the Revolutionary Communist Party. He's in his 80s now. His name is Bob Avakian. I don't know if any of you have ever heard his name, but a lot of what we see on our streets with pro-Palestinian protesters, the George Floyd riots and the whole string of riots that happened from that point, many of them were orchestrated by a man named Bob Avakian, probably one of the most dangerous men in the world. And I'm not saying that just to be histrionic or hyperbolic. He is a very, very, very dangerous man, and not many people know who he is. Bob Avakian.
Man, if you see him too, he don't even look. If Chad, if you could pull up a picture, he don't even look. He looks all, doesn't look threatening at all. Very unassuming. But that's how they come, though, right?
Yeah, but I'll leave it there. I might do something on him on my YouTube channel or something. But I'm gonna leave it there.
I would love to hear about that. I'm always curious about these older communists who were really, really involved and who were the leaders and the trainers of the people who are bubbling up today or have bubbled up today. Because when you start to read their writings and you get into their mindset, I don't know, I just feel like it kind of gives you the blueprint of what their plans are. Yeah. Unassuming. You could walk by this guy, you wouldn't think nothing.
Yeah.
And so what he's he's an international not terrorist, but
that's how
he's like fleeing and is he wanted or
no, I don't know. I don't think there's currently any warrants out for his arrest. That's just the way I describe him.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's interesting to me, and I want to get to some of the things that Kamala said, but it's interesting to me how when you bring people like this up or things like this, how it's gone on for so long and it's been around for so long, people they can't make the connection. They can't make the connection from what they did and what's going on today. I put a post up on Twitter. Do you guys know those brothers, the Kazakhstans, what's their name? What is his name? Brian Kazakhstan or whatever his name is. Krasenstein. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you. No, Ed Krasenstein. He said, when you can't argue policy, you create memes, because there was a meme of Kamala with the hammer and sickle in front of her, like talking to a bunch of people. And right. I said, but Kamala is the only one dodging policy questions and debates. And somebody under me asked define. They said define commie, and I was like Kamala Harris. And but it's like, how are you asking me to define communist when like she's literally a communist and you can't see it? How are you asking me? You can't even you can't see. You're the one who is blind and can't see. And so it's just, I don't know, when people can't see these obvious things, it's
people can argue policy.
Well, it's also worth mentioning. It's also worth mentioning too that, did you all see the Breakfast Club interview where they had Obama on
recently?
This was like 2 years ago. They had Obama on. Actually, no, it was in 2020, and I know it was in 2020 because the way that the interview set up, they're taking COVID precautions, and so Charlemagne the Fraud, I think Angela Yee is on there as well. DJ Envy, all of them they have distance between them, and Obama is like 20 feet away from them in a chair, and so they're interviewing Obama. And I forget the question they asked him, but they asked him, they asked him about Trump's administration. And Obama's response is, Trump didn't do anything. They're asking about the influence and the support that Trump has. And Obama's response is something of the nature that, that Trump didn't do anything for his base. That in fact, Trump rolled back a lot of policies. He basically deregulated a lot of things. And so Trump's not doing anything for people because he's rolling back regulation. And the fact is, that is the very essence of doing things for people, is rolling back regulation, deregulating things, basically coming down on bureaucracy. That's actually doing something for the people, because the fact is, to the extent, and I know Chuck can speak to this better than I can, but, and Blanche too, for that matter. But, to the extent that that the government steps in Kamala Harris fashion and resolves to do something about the economy, to do something about inflation, to do something about childcare, to do something about the healthcare industry, such and so forth, they actually make things worse. They actually make things quite worse, resoundingly worse for regular average American citizens. And so the fact is, the way that you ensure progress is by rolling back government overhaul, by rolling back government overreach. That's the way that you help the average American citizen, at least the average productive American citizen. If you want a bunch of Americans who will be attached at the hip to the government, if you want for a bunch of freeloaders to basically make up the American citizenry, then sure, have the government step in to every industry, to every nook and every cranny, give government unfettered access to literally every single thing, and you'll be successful. But if you want genuine American progress, if you want genuine American freedom, if you want production, then the way you do it is by rolling back, government regulation and government overreach. That's the way that you do it. And so to me, I thought it was quite ironic that Obama is sitting there talking about, Trump didn't actually do anything for his base, because all he did was roll back government regulation. And I don't see why people vote for him, because, all he's doing is cracking down on federal government. That's how you help people, numbnuts. Like, what are we talking about? Anyway,
you know what I said too on the shade room thing? I said here's where we are. Our worldviews are totally different. I see the world differently than y'all. Like, you see, I said, I believe if a man don't work, he don't eat. I believe that. I believe in principles that all of these policies, for them to make sense, they have to be based on something foundational, something that is unmovable, a principle, a law, fixed. Otherwise, you just be floating from here to there. We fundamentally disagree on world views. That's why we probably won't ever, come together and see things, in a way that where we can agree, because our principles and our worldview is different. And that is Obama's worldview, is that the government is the only thing that can help you be something, help you be better, do better. I don't believe that. I fundamentally don't agree with that. So we're starting off at two totally different places. So if we're starting at two totally different places, like, where we go from here is just, we'll probably never come together. So yeah, I see why he can say something like that, because it's a completely different worldview.
Keisha, since you said that, my question to you is, Keisha, so then there can't be a solution with them then. If you have think about, you have the left, the Democrats, the radical progressives, all them, they have a different worldview. Well, actually, they have a view of the world they want to see. And you have your worldview. How do we come together with them? Because then, to me, any kind of negotiation only favors that side. Think about, you standing on principles and morals and standards. How you going to negotiate with them? Like with what? Like what are we talking about? We're going to say abortion, it can't be 9 months. What, it's going to be 6 months? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how they going to stop price gouging? She said she wanted to stop businesses from raising their. How do you stop a business from raising? You know how insane that is? You're going to make me set a price of what I want to sell. Like, you know how insane that is? And you're telling me that the cost of my goods don't matter. So if it costs me more to get my material, so what? I can't raise the price. Man, that's crazy. People go bankrupt. But to your point, Quisha, you said we have different worldviews. So if their worldview is demonic and satanic, and our worldview is God, how do we even have a negotiation with them? Like, what are we negotiating on? Are we negotiating on how much liberals we want to give Satan? Like, I mean, what are we talking about with these people?
No, I agree. I think that, like, again, I think that there's different people. That group that I was talking to that was on the platform at the moment, I was talking to them saying, like, y'all, because they all believe the same thing. But I do believe that, like, you know, there were people in the chat that I could see who were actually thinking, you know, they were listening and they were thinking. So it was more for those people to hear we're starting at two different places. Because there came a time it was like, well, maybe we can agree on some things. Like, I think the moderator was saying like that, like maybe we, where is there a place where we can agree? And I'm just like, we have two different worldviews that we ain't never going to agree. That, if we just give people stuff that they're just going to be better. And I said, and you know how I know that it doesn't work? I said, because you wouldn't even do it to your kids. You would never tell your kids, I'm going to just give you stuff and then expect for you to do better. We don't raise it. I don't care who you are. You don't raise your kids that way because you know that doesn't produce the best type of child. And then, you know, so when sometimes these conversations, when you can kind of boil it down and take it out of politics. And I was like, I said, we believe that in every other situation, but somehow when it comes to policy, we want to like make this shift to like, that doesn't make sense anymore. That's not a principle that you can live by anymore. Principles don't work like that. That's why it's a principle, because it works. It never changes. And so, you know, it's, like I said, you don't know who you're going to get that message to. You know, you just don't know. But I mean, I trust God. I don't. It's not really my business to figure out who you know, in that group that the message got to. But I do believe just the opportunity lets me know that this is you know, God is presenting this opportunity for me to go before these people to share the gospel in that way. And so I don't know who it helped, who it didn't help, but I let God be God. I don't try to give the increase. That's God's business, not mine.
Hey, Quisha, do you mind if I play this Obama clip real quick?
Oh no, go for it. I'd love to see it.
Okay. Check this thing out.
Correct way to do what Trump did,
which is,
as far as like, you know, catering to his base, you know, doing what he felt was best for his folks. They're a morally correct way to do that.
Get more votes. I mean, the truth of the matter is actually Trump hasn't gotten a lot. He's torn some stuff down. He hasn't. There's no law that he's passed that is transformative in this country. He passed a tax cut to give away some more money to rich folks, which Republicans have been doing that for years. But you can't name a piece of legislation that he's done that has actually changed the country, even for his own constituencies. So it's always easier to tear down than build up.
Wow.
Can I chime in, please? May I? Or does somebody else want to go? Listen, this guy says he didn't do anything. He didn't pass anything that was transformative, which, of course, begs the question, because everything that the left says, everyone just takes it for granted, right? Because that's just the way things are. This sort of matter-of-fact assuredness they have about themselves. What in the hell makes you think that Americans want you to transform anything? But, of course, that's what he said he was going to do, right? Radically transform the country. We're on the eve of radically transforming this country, but yet and still he claims that he liked the country. You know, this is the whole, you know, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dorn, you know, a Chesa, a Baudin lineage. Of course, you know, I told you all about, you know, Chesa Baudin. You know, he was down there chumming it up with, you know, Hugo Chavez during his time as Venezuela's president, when he was destroying that country, and now tons and tons of Venezuelan migrants are flooding into our country. I see him on my street corners here in my neighborhood. This guy is a complete and utter joke, talking about, this is what kills me. Gives money to, I think he said, to rich folks. No, Obama, no, jackass. That's what folks like you do. That's what statists do. Because the only time you can do this so-called price gouging is when you have something tantamount to a monopoly, where people don't have the choice to go and purchase their goods and services elsewhere. You see, when people realize that the government is going to begin putting its finger on the scales of the economy, that's when the quote unquote rich folk who are politically connected then begin to attach themselves to the hip of the politician that is threatening to do X, Y, and Z to the business owner for the sake of protecting their own profits. Because it turns out that most folk, you know, again, it takes a deal of virtue in order to have the system that we call a free market system in the first place. But after all, a lot of these business folk are simply in the business of trying to make sure that they stay in business. So this is how rich people get richer. Rich people get richer when the government gets involved in the private sector, because competition is not allowed for, thus keeping the market relatively balanced and stable. That's what competition does. Government interferes with that in such a way where it creates this two-tier system that actually hollows out the middle class, but it does not, in fact, create one. It's a similar thing, and I don't mean to switch tones a bit, but I just want to give you guys an example. The same thing is true when it comes to America and its foreign policy. Again, it's another conversation for another day. But the fact of the matter is that people, you know, talk about cowardice and how people just aren't afraid. People are character deficient. They do not want to do what's right. They do not want to stand on the side that is right. The same thing is true internationally, because it turns out that even though people feel as though the United States and its Western allies to some extent have the moral high ground in terms of its societies and how it treats its citizens and so on and so forth, even though they may feel this way, if they see that the United States is getting weak, if they see that the United States has a precedence, or perhaps is developing a sort of proclivity for turning its back on its allies, then those who would otherwise saddle up to the United States look to the enemies of the United States for comfort. And that's how your enemies abroad gets other weaker nations into its orbit, when you display this lack of confidence and weakness on the international stage. See Afghanistan. Who wants to deal with that? Who wants to become another Afghanistan? That's how China, that's how Russia, that's how Iran, and that's how North Korea gets these other so-called neutral countries into its orbit. We talk about the BRICS and all this economic international realignment, right? Because the West is weakening itself in this way. And the same is true when you dumb it down nationally when it comes to the economy. People who are in business want to stay in business. Thus, they do favors for people threatening to come down hard on the side of, you know, certain industries and so on and so forth. So this is how this whole thing about making the rich richer. This is how you make the rich richer. The competition in the market actually is a check on this kind of a predatory, as they call it, price gouging, so on and so forth. I had a whole tirade about that a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't work this way. Doesn't work that way. But unfortunately, as I repeat, you have enough stupid Americans who, when you just say these things, these catchphrases like price gouging, and I mean, they go right along with it, as if the businessman, someone in Chad O. Jackson's position, or anyone else owning a business for that matter, they got this caricature of the monopoly guy with a cigar and a mustache sitting around with his feet up, looking like Scrooge McDuck, while all the little plebes, working in the mines and dying of what they used to call it, black lung or something to that effect, you know, in their 20s and 40s. It's just, man, people they live in an alternate version of reality, man. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
I think it again goes back to like worldview and what Blanche is talking about when he talks about character and things like that. Because if you think that as believers, we believe that we are all we have wicked hearts, right? We start out wicked, and the only thing that can save us is Christ. But these people believe that all people are good. We just have to create the right circumstances for their goodness to show. And so, like, again, two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world. And so when they believe, if you think that, oh, we just need to make the circumstances better for the person to do better, except for when it comes to business, because they don't see corporations being ran. To me, this is how I interpret how they view this thing, because of the way they talk. They don't see them as being like real people who have interest in keeping their businesses afloat, meaning I have to treat the person, and I have to have good customer service. The prices have to be competitive, and all these other things, so that people keep coming to my business. I don't think they don't put that together. They see corporations as almost like just material things. They don't see them as being run by actual people who have an interest in keeping the business afloat. And so when they disconnect it from a person, it doesn't really help anyway, because they don't see the person as actually being a wretched, wicked person with only the Savior to save. They see them as the circumstances. Let me fix the circumstances for the person to do good or be good, which that is not how people work.
But it's not even the politicians. I mean, the politicians are simply, like Chad mentioned earlier, they know very well what they're doing, but they've learned over the years what it is, in fact, that they can get away with. Dwight Eisenhower said once upon a time, and I'm not a huge Dwight Eisenhower fan. I don't think he was a terrible president. He was a little bit too sort of liberal for my taste, but that's okay. I'm not a Dwight Eisenhower hater. But one thing he said is that, we mustn't govern as if today is all that matters. And when something to that effect, right? We have to stop thinking about today and today only, right? It's just like, okay, we'll print more money, and we'll worry about it when the time comes. Or we talk about how it's funny how those dead men and women. It's funny how they seem to always want to vote for Democrats, right? We're always talking about how it's strange how this thing always sort of works itself out. But what we don't talk about enough, of course, is those not yet born, right? And how we are sort of, mortgaging their futures, because they are the ones who are going to have to pay for this stuff, because we're so worried about the now. But again, it takes virtue in order to have a sense of care for those who are going to come after you. And so what the politicians are doing, of course, is they are playing on they are exploiting your greed. And I'm talking about the greed of everyday folks, because this is what they see. This is what they see when they think about business owners or the person that signs their paycheck. They don't understand what it takes to build that, because they believe that you didn't build that. This is what they believe. And so it goes to Blanchard's point when he talks about character. It's easy to feed into class envy when you have people who have no real sense of character. And again, we can talk about how communism and socialism became, how liberalism, this became the cause of the whole liberal experiment, was to promote socialism and all this stuff. Like I said, maybe another conversation, but it's easy to play on people when they have this sinfulness, this greed in their hearts, as if the wealth of someone else has anything in real terms to do with you. Like a rich man stole something from me. I was never rich, so how can a rich man take something from me? If he's rich and he took something from me, then I must have been rich at some point. I must have missed that. I must have slept through that. It's just crazy, because they think that these people are actually taking something from them. Exploiting them. Exploiting what? You ain't got nothing. Let you tell it. So what they take from you? The math ain't mathing.
The math ain't mathing.
In their perfect world, Chad would just be a plumber and he'd be working for food and shelter. Like in their perfect world, everybody they would just produce with no kind of real incentive, just produce, and then you let all the all the dregs of society enjoy it. I don't know. I just think it's crazy that when Kamala is saying that she wants to stop price gouging, it's just funny. It's just funny that imagine somebody prices being raised on something, and then they call it price gouging. As compared to what? As compared to so how much should eggs cost? Should eggs be 10 cents an egg? Should it be 5 cents an egg? Should it be free? Like how much should eggs cost? And so, but people hear this, and like Chuck said, it's really envy because all this is really revenge. What she's saying is, I'm going to get back at the people that have more than me. I'm going to get them for you. I'm going after them. And then the whole thing is, well, Trump is looking out for them. He's looking out. He's giving. Think about what Obama said. He's giving them money. Never in my life have I heard such a thing where somebody just gives somebody some money. It doesn't happen. But when Obama says it with his little legs crossed, people believe him. They think he's telling the truth. They see. I'm serious. Like they hear Obama. Chuck mentioned this. Nobody questions when these people speak. And I've been saying that this is black privilege. When a black person has a microphone in front of them, on any kind of platform, it's believed they're telling the truth, except when it's Quisha, except when it's Chuck, except when it's Blanche. All of a sudden, then they know, wait a minute, that black person must be lying. So again, it goes back to character. In their perfect world, we would all just be working for literal room and board, and just that's it. We just be working and then putting out the product. And guess what? The folks at the top will still have the money. The quote unquote rich people, they will still be up there rich. They still be rich. We just be down here suffering with no middle class.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Blanche. And it goes back to, what Yuri Bezmenov talked about with egalitarianism. And Yuri Bezmenov said, and I agree with him to a large extent, although I might differ from him in some ways. But, Yuri Bezmenov, the former KGB agent, said something of the nature that when it comes to the fix that we're in the Western world, their original sin is the promise of egalitarianism. And what he means by that is this notion that we should all be equal. And he says that, when it comes to literally everything that's made in terms of products that are produced, the idea is that all of the products will be equal in terms of value and equal in terms of output, so on and so forth. You want consistency in terms of your product that you're creating. If you're a restaurant and you are known for making burgers, you want for all those burgers to be equal in terms of value because you're ascribing the same dollar amount for that burger. And so you want consistency in terms of the value of that burger, in terms of the quality of that burger. When it comes to, wheel bearings, when it comes to pencils, when it comes to, this, that, and the third, when it comes to tangible products and what's the word for something that's not quite alive? It starts with an I. My vocabulary escapes me.
Something that's not what, Chad?
That's not alive. That's not cognizant. That's not autonomous.
Inanimate?
Yeah, inanimate. When it comes to inanimate objects, yes, they're created to be equal. When it comes to animals, animals, they are born with this instinct to do whatever it is their species does. They're all quote unquote equal in terms of what they do and what their ability is. Human beings, not so much. Human beings are different. We are different in terms of our abilities. Our thumbprints are different. Like everything about us is different. And so we have different abilities and different capabilities. Egalitarianism can never work. And so to the extent that you have a politician advocating for egalitarianism, you're basically devaluing man. You're putting him on the same level as inanimate objects. You're putting him on the same level as animals. Whereas with a free market system, you're free to put your best foot forward. You're free to basically engage in the marketplace and produce and get out what you put in. That's the way it's supposed to work. And the fact that most people, because they're indoctrinated by the education system and by all the industries, entertainment, such and so forth, that tells you you're supposed to be equal. You're supposed to be the same as the CEO and as a billionaire. There is supposed to be no such thing as a billionaire. We're all supposed to be, quote unquote, equal. You'll notice that these people who are advocating for egalitarianism don't want to be equal with those who are impoverished. They want for everybody to be equal with the billionaire and the CEOs. So it's not so much that, they want everybody to be equal with those who aren't productive, those who don't have the tangible goods, and those who don't have the luxuries and the ability to do things because they have the monetary resources to do those things. Rather, they want everybody to be equal with the millionaire and with those who make up the so-called upper class, the wealthier classes. This creates a conundrum. This creates a problem because somebody has to produce at the end of the day. And the fact is, whenever they push their policies in the name of egalitarianism, you're naturally driving down production. You're naturally driving down supply because the thing is, if you believe that you're supposed to naturally have these things just because you breathe air, just because you bleed red, just because you exist, and there isn't anybody producing those things that you think you ought to have, everybody naturally becomes impoverished. So goes the story of Cuba. So goes the story of the Gulag. So goes the story of on and on and on and on. I can go. Algeria, the Soviet Union. Poverty as a result of this fact that we are supposed to all be equal. It doesn't work that way.
They don't even want equal no more, though, Chad. They want equity. That's what they want.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get into the clips. Here we are, an hour and a half of the show, so I guess we better start getting into the clips. But
right,
one of the things that Kamala Harris says is reminiscent of this egalitarian worldview. And Quisha, she brought up the word worldview. Their worldview cannot work. They know full well that their worldview cannot work, but they're banking on the catastrophe and the chaos and the crisis that will ensue as a result of the implementation of their policies. Because to the extent that you have the crisis, to the extent that you have the confusion, people are looking for a respite. And for that same government who created the crisis to come along and say, we have the answers, because people can't, because most of us have this kind of amnesia, we run to the same government that created the issues thinking that they have the answers when in fact they don't. They only make matters worse.
And, Chad, you brought up some good examples. One example I think we don't bring up enough is, for example, what happened, and this wasn't even that long ago. Heck, Cuba wasn't, Cuba is still Cuba, but you look at what happened in Zimbabwe. For crying out loud. I think somebody in the chat a couple of weeks ago say something about Zimbabwe and how Castro helped to liberate them and all this other nonsense. For those of you who are interested, you can go online right now and purchase a Zimbabwean currency. You can buy a $100 trillion bill if you want. It'll cost you about $200 in American dollars. $100 trillion bill. Have you ever seen? You ever see such a thing? They were printing $100 trillion bills in Zimbabwe. That's how far inflation had gone. Just look up the story of Zimbabwe. It's almost it's hilarity. It's comedy. What happened in Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe, a self-described doctrinaire Marxist who learned of Marxism. I think in the United States. I think he was educated in an American Ivy League. I think he went to Penn, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on some of the details. But yeah, $100 trillion bill in Zimbabwe, thanks to stuff like what she's talking about. Because when in a lot of these, and we'll probably get to this at some point, because a lot of these measures, these protectionist measures to try and protect certain industries, protect certain workers, and so on. A lot of this stuff happened early on in the 1930s under FDR because he was really attempting to curry favor with a lot of farmers. And this is when the AAA was created around this time, and the AAA and the farmers and all that was a hotbed of communist and Soviet activity in FDR's administration. Where the various farmer unions and so on and so forth. You know, you have farmers being told exactly what to produce and how much of what to produce, and to the extent that there is no demand for what the federal government mandates what they produce, we as taxpayers have to buy up stuff that doesn't make it to market. It's just one big, huge a mess. But when they say such things as, you know, for example, one of the ways that they do these kinds of things, and, you know, we can talk turkey now, we can get into the math and get into the brass tacks of why a lot of these economic policies are just, quite frankly, insane. Because what they do is, you know, as part of, or one of the ways in which they take over industries is that they set a price. So when she's talking about price gouging, or even, you know, you can set wages, you can set prices. Right, especially if the government is going to be the only consumer, because if you can't take things straight to market, you have to produce at some sort, or you have to produce a thing at a predetermined price based upon what the government says that it is willing to pay, because the government can only afford to pay but so much for a thing. Right. And this is, of course, they want to, you know, stop printing and borrowing and so on. They say, OK, well, here's what we are willing to pay. And so if the person that produces doesn't want to sell to the government, they create underground economies to try to do an end around, right, the measures taken up by the state when they set these prices, because it's no longer profitable. So then what happens when the producer refuses to sell to the government at a fixed rate? That's when the tanks and things start rolling in. We saw this, you know, of course, Joseph Stalin made a villain out of, you know, Europe's breadbasket, right? Ukraine, with the kulakification of the Ukraine. And this is what we're seeing in the United States, this sort of kulakification. Of course, these people aren't farmers, but, you know, they're grocers and whatever else that they may be. And of course, farmers are going to be affected as well, because the whole of the economy is just one massive interconnected thing. From gas to mortgage rates, it all goes together. And so when you hear Kamala Harris saying the type of things that she's saying, do you think someone in Kamala Harris' position is going to do a favor for Chad O. Jackson? Is she going to make sure that Chad O. Jackson gets his contracts, or get whatever it is that the person in his position needs to have in order to make his business thrive? Of course, Chad O. Jackson isn't going to get favors from a left-wing government because of his predisposition, because of his politics, because of the way in which he sees the world. He's an enemy. So it takes people, again, who are politically connected to avoid these sorts of penalties. But the people who don't produce, they accuse them of being enemies of the people, right?
And if you think they won't do it, just think about COVID. They were saying that the unvaccinated were an enemy to the people, and they were ready to, the language that Joe Biden was using was completely terrifying. Like, they were literally putting this language out there, basically saying, like, round them up because they're the enemy. They would, like, you people, this is how you have to realize who you're dealing with. You are dealing with wicked people. They're wicked. They will round you up if you don't go by what they're doing. They're wicked tyrants. That's what they are. And we saw it through COVID. Blanchard talks about this all the time. COVID was like the test, and see how far we can push this until, the people rebel. And there wasn't a real, rebellion in that way. And so she's on stage literally saying, yeah, we're going to come after businesses and make you charge this much. It's funny to me, though, that nobody says, well, kind of sounds like slavery, because the price that they charged for slavery was zero. They weren't really to pay nothing for slavery. But people don't understand, like, it's slavery still. It's still slavery when the government sets price, you know, and they mean what they say. They're not kidding. They are full on communism. They believe this to their core. They believe it to their core. Can we play this? Excuse me. Can we play this one clip? Are we ready for a clip?
Do your homework, black
hold
people.
up. Let me just tell you something right here that could be very historic. And Kay pointed this out to me. If Kamala Harris is elected, she would be sworn in.
She could be sworn in
MLK Day
by the first black Supreme Court,
and possibly by Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
Does that not give you chills?
Come on,
Stop it.
Does that not send
Maria?
Just make your whole body vibrate?
Oh my God,
Game
that just
changer.
gave me chills. That gave me chills.
Game changer, dog.
He felt the chill going up his leg like Chris Hayes did when he saw Obama speaking. Wasn't that Chris Hayes? Who said when Obama, y'all don't remember that? They was teasing the mess out of it. I think it was Chris Hayes who said about Obama. He felt the feeling, the chill just go up his leg when he saw Obama speak. But anyway, that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dom, I'm sorry.
Why are you gay?
Why are you gay?
I remember what Jesse Jackson said when Obama won. And that was a very honest take. He said, I wish I would have cut his, off. But I feel the same way I had those same sentiments towards the emasculated Ricky Smiley. And this is what I mean. So again, Chuck, you have a clip that I was going to use. We were talking about the black voter and black people when it comes to politics. And I'm just going to say this. Black people, for this, wanting this right to vote and all this stuff, for the most part, black folks don't deserve the right to vote. And I'm going to say this, and I say this because for your reason to be Ketanji Brown swearing in Kamala Harris on MLK, if that's your reason to usher in communism in America, then you don't deserve the right. You shouldn't be voting. I'm sorry. Black people, if you agree with that, you should not be voting. Ricky Smiley, it almost like I feel like they had a meeting with him and they told him, say, listen now, if you don't get these black people, if you don't get these black people to vote for Kamala, we got all kind of video footage of you. We got all kind of cases lined up. We got all kind of, we ready to take you down like we did Diddy. Now listen, if you don't want to be next, I advise you to put on your best performance. I don't want no Bernice wig. I don't want Lil Daryl. I want Ricky Smiley sober and talking to these people, and you better make it good, because if you don't, I promise you, we're going to throw you in prison. So you have Ricky Smiley on there crying, almost breaking down in tears, because he knows if this doesn't happen, Ricky Smiley is toast. He about to get all kind of charges brought up on him. So yeah, Ricky Smiley is disgusting.
Well, what about that part when he said that? Why can't I find that clip? When he was talking about how Kamala Harris called him whenever his son died, and Joe Biden wrote him a letter.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Do you see that clip, Quisha?
Yeah, you want me to play it?
Yeah, go ahead.
As a black man, I stand proudly with Kamala Harris this morning with tears in my eyes. It means so much to me. Do you know that lady picked up the phone and called me when my son died? How about that? How about how personal her and Joe Biden has been? How about Joe Biden wrote me a letter naming my grandkids and naming my son's name in a personal handwritten letter? How kind, how thoughtful, how genuine, they're just genuine and sincere. And I love people like that. These are kind, loving people. If you look at their policy, you'll know what's going on. We need to stop, black people. Stop it. Stop attacking Kamala Harris. Stop it with the self-hatred.
You dummy. Do you not realize that the reason why Kamala Harris called you, the reason why Joe Biden wrote you a letter, is because you are part of the media. And politicians do this. They write you letters whenever someone in your family dies. They write you letters and call you when you get married because they want to get on your good side, because they want favorable news coverage when it comes time to vote. They don't care about you. They care about votes. And this is the reason they call you. And here you are just, taken aback by the fact that this politician called you because somebody in your family died. They want your vote and they want your influence. They want for you to do exactly what you're doing, namely getting on the air and crying and sniffing and snotting and all the things that you're doing to get people to vote. That's merely what it is. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but they're more interested in your media influence than in what you got going on. Like, the fact that you're all of 50 something years old and you don't realize this is baffling to me.
You know what's crazy? That whole scene right there with Ketanji Brown Jackson, Kamala Harris on MLK. Do y'all know that Ketanji Brown Jackson, this woman, the papers that she was writing in Harvard about pedophilia, that she wanted to reduce the sentencing for pedophiles, that while she was on the bench as a judge, that she was, thinking about that we were sentencing pedophiles too harshly. These people are wicked. The same woman who said that she was not a biologist, who has 2 kids, who says she don't know what a woman is. But they are up there bigging her up. Oh, this is so historic. It is historic that America these people are so wicked and stupid. It's bad when you're wicked and dumb. Like, that's a bad combo. Like, the love and adoration of the wickedness is just sickening. It's sick.
This is a Biden handwritten letter.
right.
Come on.
Right. Hey, Quisha. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, you know, protecting children, like you said, from pedophilia and feeling as though we sentenced them too harshly. And, this is a huge part of the whole thing with the left and, Marxists and how they feel as though they can use sex as a means to manipulate people. Because, see, you understand, protecting children from sex and sexual content and these things, they actually believe that this is, in fact, a bourgeois value that is meant to protect the interests of the status quo, to protect the interests of the ruling class. Because the heart of the matter is, from their point of view, they believe that all human beings, and I'm going to get a little bit strange here, but I just want to just say this because Quisha brought it up and it just came to my mind. And I was talking about this on a previous podcast I did on someone else's show, that they actually believe that human beings are born with a clean slate. I don't know if you all have heard the term tabula rasa. And so they have this belief that human beings are just these blank canvases and we kind of fill them in with these ideas, right? And one of those ideas, of course, is that, human beings should be responsible when it comes to their sexual appetites or sexual behaviors, at least, right? And that a person has to mature to a certain point, to where they are actually able to deal with the consequences of having a quote unquote sex life. But they don't believe that. They believe that we, in fact, should be exposing children early and often as we can to sexual material in hopes that we may, in fact, and this is in their own literature, so that we can, in fact, queer them. This is a huge part of the deal because naturally they actually believe that human beings are naturally this way. We saw the early stages of these kinds of theories with, Herbert Marcuse, famous Frankfurt School acolyte and mentor of none other than Angela Davis himself, who came up with this concept of what he referred to as polymorphic perversion. And so this is key with the left. And see, and when it comes to Marxism, and going on what I said earlier, and just the whole theme tonight, and we're talking about like why they're saying these things, but yet they still expect people to produce. How is this? Why are they just expecting people to just do things? But of course, human beings aren't, motivated by not just, a prophet, but it's bigger than that. It's deeper than that. It's about an adherence to this idea of some sort of universal justice or universal law that respects a person and respects a person's things and respects a person as their own sort of individuated and unique soul onto themselves, who's worthy of dignity and respect, and they are not to be trampled upon or abused or molested. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, but you all get what I'm saying, but in a sexual way as well, by someone else. And this is the whole idea. This is key to the whole Western project of the right to pursue happiness and the right to property ownership. Well, Marx in his mind would say that took man off of, or took him away. It estranged man from who he in fact truly is. This is what one of the key themes in Marx's ideology is, this whole notion of alienation. When man is alienated from his work, he is essentially alienated from who he is. And on a deeper level, what these leftists are upset with, and Marx understood this, and maybe the cronies that run around now don't fully understand, but it wasn't so much the inequality that vexed Marx. It was the fact that man did not have the opportunity in his mind to be one with who he truly was. Capitalism in his mind, or the free market system in his mind, was in fact, it wasn't complementary to man's nature. It was antithetical to man's nature, because human beings, we are the only creatures in the universe, according to him, that before you actually see things in the sensible world, it first originates metaphysically in a man's mind. So you think about it, and then you go on to create it. So it exists in mind first. So all things that exist are the product of man's own conscience and man's own will. So from that particular standpoint, Marx would say that you must first know what you learn of what you have on the inside when you see the things that you create, when you see the things that you have created with your hands that first originated in your mind, when you see them made manifest. So with the things that you create has your own imprint that then stares back at you. So the things that you create acts as a kind of educator, or it informs man, and it's this ongoing feeding loop, and it raises man's conscience when he sees the things that he creates, or he sees himself in the things that he creates. And this is the whole Hegelian dialectical process, to where we're reaching a higher and higher and higher and higher and higher phase. Well, eventually we'll get to the point where man is simply engaging in an exercise of self-discovery by simply creating, simply so as to know exactly who he is and what man is. But when you are simply relegated to just one task, I do this one thing, I do this for a living, I produce this, I feed this into the economy so that I can then receive money in exchange for the things I create. I'm not creating things for my own use. The thing that you create, the money that you receive from the things that you create, then becomes your master and then reigns over you. And then the truth that you are, or the true thing that you are, is not there for your disposal. It now, again, kind of rules over you. So you've in a sense created this mind game, this trick, where you no longer know or see your true power, because you've been too alienated from your things, alienated from who you truly are, which is a producer by nature, who actually just wants to get to the realization that man is in fact the highest order creature in the universe, and all that exists is man. And so this is why they just expect you to just want to produce and just do it just for the sake of doing it. The profit motive is what takes you out of this higher type of being. And this is like some of the underlying theological nature of what Marxism is, in fact. And again, the queer ideology, or the LGBTQ agenda, is the same as that. This is why they want to expose kids often and early.
Someone in the chat, I talked about Hannah Dyer in a video that I did probably about 2 years ago now, but Elsa Turner in the chat, she said, look up Hannah Dyer and queer futurity and childhood innocence. She said, since Black kids don't get to be innocent, then no kid should get to be innocent. And y'all, if you read Hannah Dyer stuff, y'all will think, they literally say the quiet part out loud about pedophilia and all these kinds. These people, and she's she's one of these PhDs in education, early childhood education, I believe. So that, I mean, this is what they take their papers and their writings and stuff like that, and when I say they, I mean like politicians and just different people who make policy, or the social engineers, I guess. They listen to these people. And it's crazy, but she comes from this Hegel. This is what she wants to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
maddening.
crazy.
It's very maddening. Let's get to the some of these supers before we move on with some of the clips. We have a super sticker from Patrina John. Thank you. Really appreciate it. We got one from Oh Really? Hey CTTC and the chat fam. Chuck, you're like us in the chat, brother. No worries. We get mad at ignorance, deception, and evil as well. I guess they're referring to whenever you kicked old boy out of the chat.
Get lost, man.
Jesus loves you. Says God bless the chat. Chuck, Chad, Quisha, and Blanche. Thank you. Jesus loves you, and Jesus does love you. This is a fact. Let's go. Derek Perry says they worried about Project 2025 while they ignore the Negro Project, which has been implemented and is in their community via Planned Parenthood. You're right. Population control, which goes hand in hand with climate change, but that's a different story for a different day.
That's how they sold it in the beginning, Chad.
Precisely. Tony Hill left a $10 super chat. Appreciate it. It says, I am grateful to get the Uncle Tom docs and just my own research afterwards that has led me to walk with my chest out. There you go. And thanks to my uncle and aunt. Is it aunt or auntie? The blacks like to say the auntie.
My auntie.
My auntie. Schooled me on the political games late 1990s. Well, sounds like you have a good aunt and or uncle and auntie on your hands. Some of us have that. Some of us have the luxury or the benefit of having relatives in our family to put us up on game as to what's really going on politically. Many of us not so much. Many of us, especially those of us who are black, many of the matriarchs and even the so-called patriarchs are all too willing to vouch for communism, even though they might not recognize it as that name. So thank you for that, Tony Hill. Really appreciate it. Oh, really? Again, thank you for the $2 super chat. DNC convention is in my city. I'm behind enemy lines. That starts tomorrow, actually. So
yeah, the protests are already out there.
Right. Blanchard goes live 3 times a week. I'm pretty sure he's going to be covering some of that in his show. I think I might be going live depending on what happens, depending on what unfolds in the DNC. It's interesting because these are the same people who accuse Trump of being a dictator or a wannabe dictator. That's one of their favorite slogans. For Kamala Harris to emerge as a presumptive nominee after having received zero votes during the Democrat primary is quite baffling to me. But yet, Republicans are anti-democracy. Okay. And what's fascinating to me is you don't see Republicans with the same force pointing this contradiction out as to how Democrats who claim to be pro-democracy foisting Kamala Harris on the American people as the presumptive nominee.
I brought that
undergoing, up. Yeah, and I'm sure you did. Undergoing a whole coup to get rid of Joe Biden, who got the rightful primary votes to be the nominee. You're just completely bypassing that entirely and inserting Kamala Harris in lieu of Biden and saying, look, y'all just have to deal with it. And not only do you have to deal with it, we're going to mobilize the entire mainstream media to act as if Kamala Harris is the greatest thing since sliced bread, to grace us with her presence, and y'all are just going with it. But y'all are pro-democracy? Okay.
I said I would be insulted. Like, y'all aren't insulted. That don't make you mad. I said even BLM was like, nah, we ain't with that. Even BLM was like, no, this is not right. Like, come on, this is crazy. Like, but I'm so curious to see what these what are they these pro-Palestinians are gonna do. They said that they coming in by the hundreds of thousands. I'm like, oh. Okay.
Apparently, they're about to show up and show out. But Quisha, that the media has demonstrated time and again that they are pro Kamala. They're not even pretending to be neutral. They're not even pretending to be, we're just going to be purveyors of the facts, and we're going to be equally scrutinizing both candidates and seeing who can be refined in the fire. They're not even pretending to be that. I mean, they're very obviously besmirching Trump in order to make Kamala Harris seem, larger than life. And these Democrats.
Joy.
What a mess. What a mess. All right, moving on. An ancient man. I think this is a first time super, so I appreciate it, because I don't remember reading any supers from you before. So thank you for the first time super. Really appreciate it. He says, when Kamala, the blacks call her Camilla, so I'm gonna call her Camilla. The blacks call her Camilla. Camilla Harris.
I like that.
They're trying to blackify her. When Camilla was talking about food prices, and I'm sure we're going to get to that clip in a moment. When Camilla was talking about food price controls, that should have raised some eyebrows. That alone will cause shotguns shortages. What am I saying? I need a new prescription.
You joking, not that.
For the last 3 years.
You thought that said shotguns.
Please.
When Camilla, forgive me. I went to public school, so you got to forgive me.
Man, Camilla and Dan Crump, I swear.
Yeah. When Camilla was talking about food price. No. All right. When Camilla was talking about food price controls, that should have raised some eyebrows. That alone will cause shortages, but hey, no one researches. And you're right. And again, it's like they know what they're doing. That's the point that I'm trying to make. They know exactly what they're doing, but they're exploiting ignorance. They are exploiting stupidity. That's what they're doing. They know that they are the reason why these food prices are skyrocketing. They are the cause for it. The so-called American Rescue Plan is a cause for it. The so-called Build Back Better plan is a cause for it. They are the reason for it. They are the reason why these prices are out of control. Even me, owner of a plumbing company, I mean, my materials cost money, and those materials have skyrocketed, and we have to pass that price along to the consumer, along to the customer. And my industry is one, because we do new construction and remodels, but we also do service work. And for me, plumbing is just one of those industries that gets a bad rap because there's so many nincompoops in our industry, unfortunately, who take advantage of customers. And it is what it is. I mean, I think the trades in general, we get a bad rap because, yes, there are folks among us who take advantage of people's situations. I mean, when you have a pipe burst, or when you have, your sewer backing up, that's a situation that most people don't plan for. You should plan for things like that. You should have money set aside and please, consume the content of such people as Dave Ramsey and others to set aside a rainy day fund Because if you're a homeowner, things will come up and you need to have the funds to cover those things. But most people don't plan for these things. And to the extent that you have an accident or you have an unfortunate situation arise, there are individuals in my industry who take advantage of that. It's just unfortunate, but it is what it is. But when that happens, I mean, I try to the best of my ability to try to work with my customers to try, I mean, whether it be a payment plan, whether it be, cutting back on cost or whatever, but there's certain things that are unavoidable.
Chad,
I mean, I have no say whatsoever in what I'm having to pay my supplier for such things as water heaters or sewer piping or things of this nature. And so I have to pass that price on to the consumer, onto the customer. And that's a direct reflection of policies coming out of the presidential administration. It just is what it is. And so for Kamala Harris to get up on stage and try to gaslight and make it as if the manufacturers are price gouging, I mean, to me, that's a slap in the face. It just is. It's not my fault that the prices are what they are. It's your fault as a politician. But the fact that she's able to get into a room and gather a crowd who's clapping at the things that she's saying as though they're true, it's just mind-boggling to me. But anyway, moving on. We got to get through these supers.
And Chad will repossess. I said, no, Chad will repossess. Don't get it twisted. You don't pay, you're going to come home, your whole pipe is going to be gone.
Hey, that's true.
I've seen him
that
do
is
it.
True. I'm still black, so
I've seen him do it.
Hey, I deleted that post though, because I was like, you know what? This isn't a good
Chad,
one.
look at this, Chad. So this genius here says this is what's happening.
Big businesses jacking up prices, government, and high demand and low supply are the things that causes inflation. Yes, high demand and low supply does cause inflation, but the government is still responsible for the dissemination of these funds that they did not earn. That drives up demand.
Hey,
and when
Anthony,
that happens, work is de-incentivized, and that causes inflation. Yes, you're right, but you're not. You're almost there. You are almost there. But the Biden administration
trying to say that the big businesses though jack up prices just for jacking up, like big businesses jack up prices just for the sake of it.
There are a multitude of reasons. There are a multitude of reasons why businesses may, in fact, jack up prices, especially when you see, high prices in high crime areas, because the cost of doing business is significantly higher because they have to worry about such things as theft. For example, I doubt this person has ever even owned a business because he has no idea, not just the amount of red tape, but the things that you must have in order to operate your business. You incur a ton of costs. When he says that big businesses are jacking up prices, the fact that we even have such a concept as big businesses is predicated upon the fact that many a smaller business cannot afford to stay in business. Why? Because the government is too punitive. Precisely. And so you do have higher prices, quote unquote, higher, when you do, in fact, have these sort of quasi monopolies, if you will, in industries where, once again, I repeat, where businesses that are politically connected are allowed to circumvent certain regulations, for example, that upstarts are not able to avoid because they do not have the clout, the power, and the influence to do so. So I would advise Anthony Hegler to go and perhaps go and pick rocks, perhaps, but he needs to go and read something. Somebody called me the Black Von Mises a couple of weeks ago. Lofty praise, but again, it doesn't take a genius to know these things. And so, I don't know. I don't have no idea what he's talking about. He wants to blame businesses, government, and high demand. Okay, all right. All right, so it's your fault because you want what you want. It's your fault. And the fact that there aren't people to supply it, I guess that's big business's fault. Okay.
He owns a dump truck business for you all, so you let y'all know.
Okay. Right. And the funny thing about it, Chad, when you talk about it, it's funny because the person that is running the business, I mean, they operate these businesses on extremely low profit margins, but that's beside the point. But they have an interest in trying to stay again in business themselves, and so there must be a taker. There has to be a market out there somewhere. because if no one patronizes their businesses, then they themselves don't eat. So there isn't a lot of incentive there for companies to just get over on people and force them, because they can't force them, because that's the beauty of the private sector. You don't have to. You can just go elsewhere. You cannot, and that's why government is far more dangerous, because they do so at the point of a gun, literally and figuratively. And that's the dangerous part. You cannot charge a person something that they aren't willing to pay. It doesn't work that way. They just won't, because the price, you can't do that. They won't pay.
I'm very, this seems real sus if he owns 5 trucks to say that big businesses are the reason that prices are going up. If you own 5 dump trucks and you say something like big businesses are the reason for prices going up, that makes me question what you're saying, because you cannot possibly have been in business for that long and own that many trucks and think that. Like, how do you think that? That big business, why would that have even been a part of your
I'm not surprised, Quisha. We have people that have been through years and years of schooling and medical school training who thinks it's okay to perform a sexual reassignment surgery to children. So I'm not shocked. You'd be surprised. You would think that someone would know better. I mean, there are a ton of stupid people out there, stupid economists who have stupid ideas, who have no ideas. Let's call them Keynesians and so on. Yeah, there's a lot of stupid people out there who you think would know better because of their experience, because of their education. But unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with.
I blocked Anthony years ago. I'm so surprised you found me. You hunted me down and found me. I feel, gosh, you crept back into my internet world. Be gone.
But I have a question for Anthony. So Anthony, I'm just curious. Have you ever raised your prices? As a dump truck, you have a dump truck fleet. Have you ever raised your prices? And my question is,
great question, though.
My question is, why did you raise your prices? If you care to answer that question,
dump truck fleet.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. He got 5. He has 5. He say, great. Have you ever had to raise your prices? That's a great question.
That is a great question, and the fact is, I mean, just like homeboy who owns a barbecue restaurant, homeboy who came up on
that slither slug of a human. That's slow.
Lord have mercy.
I mean, job of the hut of a human and slithered up.
We'll get to we'll get to that here in a minute, but it baffles my mind how these folks don't see that these Democrat politicians with all these grandiose ideas are actually bad for business. I'm sorry, but and it's fascinating to me. I'll get to that in a moment. I'll get to Quisha will maybe play that clip in a moment, but I'll save my comments for then. Anthony Davis, he's not the Anthony that we were just referring to, but he did leave a $10 super sticker. So thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate it. Adam Nice. He says, just want to thank you, Chad, for turning me on to the show. I caught you on Jim Bob's Mixed Bag show, and you schooled me on the Marxist Luther King the Jr. Love to all 4 of you, and glory to God. Yes, glory to God indeed. And shout out to Made by Jim Bob, who is the cartoonist and the very, very smart and sage and wise cartoonist. I would put it that way. Just a very brilliant dude. I had the pleasure of meeting him a year or 2 ago. He's going to be in a film that we're making. We have a lot of films in the pipeline, by the way. So yeah, shout out to Jim Bob, great dude. I think he has his mixed bag panel. I think he still does it. I've had the privilege of being on it 3 times or so. I think he should definitely have Blanchard. I know he follows Blanche on IG. So
yeah, Chad.
Go ahead.
No, so I just want to address some so no people aren't confused, because somebody in the chat had asked a question, and they said, are we, making fun of the guy and the dumb guy with the dumb truck? You know what I mean? And I just want to make clear that we're not making. I was laughing because Blanche called it a fleet, and he said he only had 5. That's why I laughed personally. But we're not laughing at the guy. I don't care if he had one dump truck. I don't care if he had a grocery cart going around asking people, "Can I carry something across the street?" I don't care. I don't care what he's doing. Work is work. As long as you're not breaking the law, you're not doing anything immoral. Work is work. It's not dumb because he owns a dump truck business. What he said was dumb, and I'm not saying that he isn't a great dump truck owner. I don't know anything about the dump truck business. He could probably teach me a thing or two about how to run the dump truck business. But the point that we're in, the reason why we were laughing at him, because what he said was dumb. The problem is that people who run businesses, and this goes for Anthony or anyone else, people who run businesses, they pay a price for being wrong. People who run businesses and they price their services out of the stratosphere in terms of what those in the market, the going rate in the market, and what those who demand that particular service are willing to pay. They do so at great peril because they put themselves out of business. Government doesn't function in the same way because people in government, as we see now, this is the reason why we're having this conversation, is that people in government do not pay a price for being wrong. Kamala Harris was a part of this administration that just completely, wrecked our economy. It probably isn't as bad as it was under Jimmy Carter in the late 70s, but we're getting there. But my point is that she got a promotion as a result of being a part of one of the worst, if not the worst administration for sure of my lifetime, possibly in the country's history, even worse than Jimmy Carter, right? And yet she gets a promotion. So that's the problem. You can't just make these claims about big business. Let me tell you something. Yes, this is part of the liberal tradition that we as citizens, we are extremely skeptical when we see a large concentration of power concentrated in one area, whether it be business or whether it be elsewhere. But the fact of the matter is that we have to deal with things as best we can. And there are no perfect solutions, of course, only trade-offs. What would you rather deal with? A huge out of control government that has the authority to kill you, to imprison you, to tax you into poverty, or a big business that does not have at its disposal, and I'm just, keeping it, just to say, pretend, for example, everything is on the up and up, and they're not outsourcing this any kind of tyranny to the government that they may or may not be in league with, but the big business can't kick in your door and take from you. The government can do that. The business can charge you whatever it wants, but they can't threaten to take anything from you. And that's the point that I think a lot of people are missing. Say whatever you want to say about big business. I'd rather deal with big business than big government, because a lot of stuff around me that I rely upon was produced by quote unquote big business. I don't have a problem with business people. I don't have a problem with wealthy entrepreneurs. I don't have a problem with CEOs making however millions upon millions of dollars people are willing to give them. Because if it was that easy, anybody would be doing it. If it was that easy to run a business, anybody would be doing it. But guess what? A moron like ALC can get elected and then go into Congress and rant and rave and talk down to people who've accomplished much more than she has ever even dreamed of accomplishing in her whole miserable life. That's the point, Anthony, and to so-and-so in the comment section. We don't hate Anthony because you run, and I hope Anthony does grow his dump truck, and I hope he does become a man who owns a whole fleet of dump trucks. And I sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart. And maybe I may utilize his services one day if he runs a good ship. He got a tight ship and runs a good company.
Man, he black.
But we have to understand that government is in fact the threat. Nothing else. Nothing else.
Precisely.
Sorry.
Teach him Chuck, everyone. Follow him at Teach him Chuck on YouTube and on IG. Let's see here. We got one from Starved Baby. Wake up, everybody. Teddy Pendergrass. Spoken like a true genius there. We got one from Ty. He left us 5 pounds. I guess he's somewhere in Europe.
The old bloke.
I
don't know if that's an insult. Is that an insult?
What, bloke? Bloke means man, right? In European slang.
European slang, English slang. They might be.
So when,
Yeah.
when
I know
they do
Australians.
the currency exchange, it's because the dollar's going down. We need the pounds right now, right?
Right.
We need those euros.
We need them euros.
Mrs. Gates said it means dude. Bloke means dude. Okay.
If people can't see that this economic plan, quote unquote, is communism, or if they can see it and still vote for it, the country is gone. 100%. 110%. I totally agree with that. But I don't know, Ty. I don't think that they see it as communism. I think they see it as, the thing is, we are indoctrinated to think of life in terms of instant gratification. And that's one of the things that the left taps into. That's one of the things that they exploit is instant gratification. And traditionally, the default to instant gratification is a black thing, right? But as Blanche says so eloquently, that they want to turn everybody black. They want everybody to think in terms of instant gratification and not so much in terms of long-term sustainability. Not in terms of delayed gratification, in terms of saving, in terms of being prudent, in terms of being wise and sage with how one spends one's money, with how one saves, with the education that a family chooses for their children, in terms of the lessons that people teach their children, in terms of the people they wish to associate with and do associate with, so on and so forth. Most people think of life in terms of instant gratification. What can I get now? Never mind the long-term consequences of the actions that we choose, be it in life or in terms of voting. And so the left exploits that, and to some extent the right exploits that too, when it comes to so-called Republican politicians who want to say things that, who do say things in terms of they know that this will be a policy or what have you that people will jump on to rather quickly, not realizing that these policies that Kamala Harris are proposing will cause inflation, will cause calamity, will cause outright destruction and depression and recession and such and so forth. So you might think that raising the minimum wage does something for your pocketbook immediately. But when the price of goods go up, you're going to be right back at square one. You might think that Kamala Harris saying that she's going to give everybody $25,000 as a down payment for their first home sounds good. But when the prices of housing goes up, you're going to be right back at square one. All these things sound good at face value, but at the long term, you're going to be stuck.
And then we'll be able to pay. Like, we just did that. Like, that literally just happened. Like, and it was a whole economic crash. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, what?
But Quisha, not to mention that, like the economy, just think of it as one large, massive organism where no part of the economy is superficial. Same thing when it comes to, home ownership. Okay, you're giving folks, and it does cost something. It does cost the taxpayer. You're giving them money so they can make the first down payment on their home, but not to mention all of the other costs that one incurs when owning a home, from insurance to warranties and taxes and so on and so. It is not cheap. And never mind the fact that, she hasn't even discussed how they're going to, separate folks along credit lines. Of course, that doesn't matter because, credit, that's just one big conspiracy meant to keep poor folk, particularly people of color, from owning homes, because we know on average people of color are less credit worthy than a non, people of color, of course, excluding Asians, of course. And so what, you give them $25,000 for a down payment, and a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, that home is being foreclosed on. What a waste. And then once again, that'll become a new panic, right? Because now the predatory lenders are now coming to reclaim, right? And so guess what the government is going to do? The same thing that the government did before, try to prevent banks from foreclosing. Never mind the fact that they preach all of this stuff about affordable housing, but yet foreclosed homes go on the market for significantly cheaper than they otherwise would have, because lenders aren't in the real estate business. They don't want your property, they want your money. So I know what I'm talking about. So when lenders get property, when they seize property, they want to get rid of it as quickly as they can. And so now the price goes on the market for cheaper. So guess what that means? A home has now become more affordable. So what do you have? So when you have foreclosures, in so many words, when you have foreclosures, that makes homes more affordable. But guess what? When you have people to whom voted for you, they put you in office, you've taken money from someone and given it to your constituents, right? And then when they default on their mortgages, they are then going to go to you to ask you to protect them from the banks that they borrowed the money from. So guess what? Banks are saying, oh, so that's how it is, huh? Oh, okay. So now you're telling me that pretty much I can't shore up my investment by seizing the collateral. So now my credit deserving, the guidelines are going to be even stricter. You're going to have a 700 credit score or higher, because there is no incentive for you to pay, because I cannot threaten you with foreclosure. You see how this works? So the pendulum will always swing. It'll be, well, they need homes, and then we must do what we can to make sure they stay in those homes. Kamala Harris says we're going to build more homes and build more affordable this, build more of that. And then guess what she's going to do there? She's going to implement rent controls.
Yo, this is y'all.
How stupid is this?
Yo, this is so crazy. But I wanted to ask. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a question to ask Blanche when we get finished with these super chats, if we ever do.
Okay. Ty left us 2 more pounds. Thank you for the pounds. Really appreciate it. It says, right, Chad, once you get to around 35 years of age, you've lived long enough to see that society as a collective has a very short memory, and the powers know this 100%. They exploit ignorance. They exploit instant gratification. This is what they do.
Like my
Derek Perry. Derek Perry left a $2 super chat. Talented 10th argument. I guess that's referring to something that we said earlier. Ty left us 2 more pounds. Coming in with the pounds, said Ricky Smiley is a woman at this point.
Yo,
I would argue the same. I would say that Roland Martin is a woman as well. Go ahead, Chuck.
I got a question for the panel. I was going to direct it to Chad and Blanche specifically because they're men. I'm sorry, Quisha, but I guess I want your opinion on this too. No, seriously, all jokes aside. No. I know, because you're a real one. You ain't like you ain't easily offended like these libtards. But no, seriously though, thinking about Ricky's mind, that comment reminded me of that. And the person in the chat, to my 2 cents, y'all in the chat, you're a funny guy. Keep him around. That person is hilarious. Anyway, I got a question. So you guys, what do you think, if any, the post, I guess, I don't want to say it. We'll leave him. I won't say his name because it'll poison the well. But just the whole, I guess, the manosphere, red pill, black man, kind of that whole movement, or that whole online movement. Do you think this standing up and pretty much shaming black men, trying to shame them into supporting the sisters, supporting the strong black women? Because I have a ton of issues with the black manosphere and a lot of the stuff that they say on net. On net, I don't think that what they're doing is a benefit. I don't think it's positive on net. I do agree with a lot of the things that some of your black manosphere content creators have to say. I agree with a lot of what they have to say. But all in all, I think that it is just as perhaps, maybe not just, but I think it is aiding and accomplishing what feminism set out to accomplish in the first place. But what do you guys think about how, if not how, like it's a foregone conclusion, but if so, how is it affecting this upcoming election? Because I see a lot of these black manosphere guys, they're not on the Kamala train, and now a lot of their content is becoming a little bit more overtly political. And so, it's like this fear of kind of like the black liberal woman coming in to kind of tell black men what to do. Do you think that's having an effect on a lot of black men? Do you think? For better or for worse?
So do I think the I'm trying to get your question. So do I think the red pill?
Yeah, because I know, Blanche, you've said some things in the past, and I've agreed with. You talked about how a lot of these manosphere guys, just it's just a bunch of nonsense, a lot of cap, a lot of lies, just a lot of BS. So overall, just in a nutshell. But I was wondering, do you think like a lot of the people who listen to that content are kind of backing away from Kamala because perhaps they see in her the archetype of the kind of woman that they have been trying to, I guess, go to war with or take to task in a way. And now that you do see a lot of black men being like, whoa, hey, I'm not really with that. I'm not really down with her. No, I'm not with her. This is why you have a lot of these famous black male celebrities are kind of like coming to the rescue, right? They call it like simping, especially in that space. So I'm saying, like, do you think that movement, the black manosphere, is helping kind of push black men who listen to that content away from Kamala Harris? And do you think this trying to shame black men is going to work in the end? It's like what Ricky Smiley and Luther Campbell and all these people are doing. Do you see it helping in the end or what?
Yeah, I think that the red pill manosphere space. So basically, they're seeing who supports Kamala. The type of woman that supports Kamala is the type of woman that they actually go to war with.
That's what I'm saying.
And so by default, Kamala's army of followers are the women that they are disgusted with. The Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, sexy red types, those who they don't like. So by default, they're going to be against Kamala because she's emerged as their new, I guess, quote unquote, queen. I think that the red pill movement does help in a sense that it does ask questions that most men probably won't, like, why are y'all supporting Kamala? And then when the dialogue starts, you quickly see that these women and men that are supporting her are just supporting her because of either identity politics or they just simping or they just, the new statement is, instead of saying good morning queen, the new statement is I'm with Kamala. That's the new good morning queen. But do I think that it's helping? Yes. I think that this red pill content has made men, for the most part, question the behaviors and actions of women. If you think about it, Kamala Harris is pretty much what the black woman aspires to be, for lack of a better word. She's accomplished. She's in a position of power. She talks with an attitude. She goes against the white man. She has a white husband. So like she encompasses all the things they want. She light skinned. She got her own hair. She got edges. These are all things black women look up to. So I think by default, Kamala Harris is like the final boss in the red pill video game.
Right.
And it's going to be tough to do because she has an entire army behind her of not just black women or just women in particular, but just also the LGBTQs, also the simps, so I think, I do think the red pill content is making it more of like the one guy that interviewed with Don Lemon, the guy couldn't articulate, he could, but he didn't want to say what he wanted to say. When he asked him, is it because she's a woman? And he was like, I know what he wanted to say.
Right.
But he was like, if I say I'm gonna get canceled. So he's like, I don't want to touch that. So yeah, I do think it helps, yeah.
I was just curious what y'all thought about that. Because I've been starting to notice that where I'm like, okay, I've been critical of the manosphere since especially after Kevin Samuels' unfortunate death. I said I wasn't gonna say his name.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, just putting on my tinfoil hat real quick. I think that Kevin Samuels was killed.
I know you said that
because of the influence that he was having. Can you imagine Kevin Samuels' voice in this current election cycle? Could you imagine? The fact is, to the extent that a lot of black men are pulling away from the Democrat Party, I think Kevin Samuels has a lot to do with that. I really do. I would lay that smack at the feet of Kevin Samuels. I really would. Because even though Kevin Samuels didn't speak to politics overtly, he was, to Blanchard's point, raising a lot of questions as it relates to feminism in America. And the fact that feminism has a lot of black men basically simping and playing second fiddle to the matriarchy. And and Kamala Harris is reminiscent of the matriarchy in so-called Black America. When you look at, what we saw, Ricky Smiley. I think they're cousins, by the way. But you saw Ricky Smiley in the opening montage. We all know Roland Martin's stance on this particular issue. He's wearing shirts that says, vote like a Black woman. This whole idea of basically yielding to the so-called Black woman and putting her as like the leader, putting her as the one we must follow. This is reminiscent of Black men in particular, basically losing ground and basically giving up the fact that they are the ones who are supposed to be at the gate when it comes to their families, when it comes to their communities, when it comes to seeing to it that we have structure and stability and function within our families. Black men have given up that task as a result of feminism. And so what Kevin Samuels was doing with his content was he was basically coming out against feminism. And as a result of this, a lot of Black men were second guessing where we are politically, where we are culturally, such and so forth. And as a result of this, a lot of Black men were pursuing trades or pursuing professions, were becoming responsible, were getting back together with their ex, wives of whom they were divorced, such and so forth. So for all of Kevin Samuels's warts and bruises, I think he was very impactful when it comes to family formation, for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. And I think what we see in terms of Donald Trump gaining a large, growth as far as Black voters are concerned, I don't think that has everything to do with Trump. I think that has a lot to do with Kevin Samuels as well. I mean, I'm just calling a spade a spade. And so, I mean, my God, I mean, can you imagine Kevin Samuels in this political cycle? I think the number would be even higher than what the predictions are slated to be right now. But to your point, Chuck, I mean, when it comes to, I mean, what are you saying? Are you saying that some of these manosphere guys who have been railing against feminism, are you saying that they are now kind of cozying up to Kamala, or are you saying that their movement is responsible for this distancing themselves from not only Kamala but from the Democrat Party writ large?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Somebody had, and I have a funny feeling our paths may cross one day. Somebody in the chat had asked me a few weeks ago if I knew who Anton Daniels was. He's based here in Detroit. He's probably the most popular, I guess, quote unquote, Black manosphere person in my city. Of course, you all probably saw the clip where he went viral. He does this. I think it airs daily. They stream daily. This daily morning show. It's about 10 people on this panel, and he had a moment that went viral where this one woman on the panel has said that she's voting for Kamala, and she said, well, honestly, the only reason why I'm voting for her is because she's Black. And he just, he didn't go off on her. He was polite, but he, gave his reason why he thought that was stupid reasoning. And it went viral, and it actually landed him a spot on Laura Ingram's show on Fox. And so he's been putting out a lot of content lately, making very sound, solid, common sense arguments about what his issues are with Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party. And he's pretty much said in so many words that, hey, I'm voting for Trump in, this election cycle. And so, yes, I think that a lot of the red pill content has really pushed a lot of Black men away from the Democrat Party and pushed them away from Kamala Harris in this election cycle. I don't know. I wanted to kind of ask you guys this, why I was kind of hesitant, because I didn't know if it was going to have too much of a, I guess, conspiratorial tone to it, especially when you bring up someone like Kevin Samuels. But on another level, again, I can see that. I really can't see the Black manosphere, red pill, whatever they're calling it, being responsible for that. Most certainly.
What's your opinion, Quisha?
Oh, go ahead, Quisha.
I think that Kevin Samuels was so necessary. Of course, I didn't agree with everything that he said, but I think the core of what he was saying was so timely and so spot on. I think he really did care about families. I think the people who have tried to fill his void are doing a pitiful, pathetic job, and they are
Yes, they are.
basically like they're like feminists for men. They're like malinist. I don't know, but they don't want anything to do with women. Like, it's so weird and bizarre, and I think that they've gone way overboard. But I do think that Kevin Samuels is very much a part of why Black men in particular, are starting to question, some of the things that they have been believing. And, he was able to bring it to them in a way that was just straight up and down. I mean, he would tell them, like, where's your penis? Like, he would just say, and it was so jarring that it helped men to come back to their selves. And there were so many men who would say, thank you for what you said. You've helped me change my life. I mean, that it's just incredible. And so, yeah, I do think that the red pill manosphere has led more men to start to question these things. Why are we following these women? We built this. We don't have to do this, and to help them, straighten their back and stand tall and be strong. So, yeah, I do.
Yeah. And it's
But
funny.
I wanted to ask Blanche, are we done with the super chats?
Hold on, Quisha. Let me just say one thing before you ask me the question. Let me say one thing. I just wanted to say that I think that Kevin Samuels, his greatest message was for men to feel empowered and have worth and value. And I think once a man has self-worth and self-value, he's not going to be a Democrat. So it's kind of like, once you realize that, you know what, I'm a man, there's no way you're going to wake up with the epiphany, wait a minute, I'm a man, I have authority, and then you're going to be a Democrat. It doesn't work like that. So I think that during this time, and what Chuck and Chad are saying, like, once you combine that with this cycle, what you see is a lot of the content is men saying, you're not going to bully us into voting for Kamala. You're not going to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, because the whole narrative is that Black men, first they said that Russia was putting out propaganda and Black men were falling for it. Then they said Black men got tricked by Trump. Then they say Black men hate Black. All the rhetoric is basically saying that Black men are just stupid, low vibrational creatures that can't really think for themselves. So they need Black women to kind of guide them along through life. So a lot of what you are hearing is Black men saying, no, I'm not stupid, I'm not dumb, I know this is wrong, I'm not doing it. And so that male empowerment piece, if you think about it, where is it present in mainstream media? There's no shows out there empowering men. There's no movies out there. There is nothing in the mainstream media that tells a man that he is great. Absolutely nothing. And so Kevin Samuels doing that, making men feel valued and worth without a woman. Let me clarify that. You feeling value and worth without a woman telling you that you are valuable and you're worthy. So that makes a huge difference. And so any man that knows his weight in gold knows that he's not going to vote Democrat. If you think about it, most men that are against the Democratic Party have a certain type of mindset and the way they carry themselves. Most of them are what you would consider to be, I guess, alpha men. There are men who are secure in their masculinity. There are men who take charge. There are men who lead. There are men who are productive. There's a certain type of man that is not a Democrat. And also, I would say, I've never seen any man that was a Republican and that he was broke. I've never seen a broke Republican, Black Republican. I've never seen a broke Republican that was Black, period. It's funny to me that you can't name one Black broke Republican, but you can name a whole bunch of Black broke Democrats. And I think the issue is the mindset. So it is a good observation, Chuck, that the red pill space, once a man finds value and even purpose, you know what I got to do for myself? I got to be, a self-starter, self-initiative and all that stuff. Once he start thinking like that, there's no way on God's earth he's going to vote Democrat. He's just not going to do it.
Right. That's true.
All right, so moving on with these supers. Let's see here. We got one from Matt. Let's see, Blaylock. He says, "Do y'all feel cessation or civil war are inevitable at this point?" I think we touched on this before, where I think I said something to the effect of, I think once we had the Civil War, the actual Civil War, in 1864. Or 1860.
1860.
Yeah, whenever we had the Civil War in 1860, you had certain states under the tutelage of such figures as General Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and others who were willing to go to war for state sovereignty, quite frankly, who genuinely believed in state sovereignty. And of course, you can talk about slavery and all the other things, but the reality of it is, I said it before and I'll say again, whenever you had the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists at the formation of our country, the Federalists who believe in a strong federal government and Anti-Federalists who believe in state rights and state sovereignty, that question was never really settled. And it wasn't settled until the Civil War. And I think what the Civil War did was, in a sense, show as a force of intimidation against those who are willing to take up arms against what they believe in. And so since the Civil War, we haven't seen folks who are willing to stand up against a federal government run amok. And so I think that, you have a lot of memes on the internet. You have a lot of keyboard warriors, but what does that translate into people who are willing to stand up for what they believe in? I don't know. I quite frankly don't know. It's been over 100 years since we've seen anything like that. Men who are willing to stand up for what's right, stand up for the constitutional framework of our country and of our existence. I would like to see it. I mean, I'm ready to go, but I don't know. I think we're all talk. If I'm being quite honest with you, I would like to see that change, but time will tell. Let's see here. We got a super sticker, or I'm sorry, super chat rather, from Miss Ree. She loves some emojis, a haloed face, praying hands, and some swords. Really appreciate it.
Shout out to Miss Ree. I think she's gone, but happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Miss Ree.
Happy birthday, Miss Ree.
Appreciate your support. Jerome B. Democrats claim the economy is better under Biden, and also claim people are still struggling because of the mass Trump allegedly left. The thing about that is, I mean,
forgive Chad. He's
the way that these people work is they are able to make Biden seem larger than life by mere changing of definitions. You'll remember that recession used to be defined by 2 consecutive quarters being deficit quarters. And prior to the primary, or leading up to the primary, the last primary that we had, economists conveniently changed the definition of recession to not mean 2 consecutive deficit quarters. And so doing that, they were able to say, like, no, Biden didn't, Biden's policies didn't lead to a deficit. Biden's policies didn't lead to a recession. They actually did. They just conveniently changed the definition of what a recession is. And so yes, Biden's policies definitely
Chad,
led to a recession.
In the shade room with that live, they said that this economy that we're living through now is actually Trump's response, because policies don't go, we don't feel the effects of the policies until later. So we're feeling the effects of Trump's economy.
I'm aware of the talking point. That's low IQ, politically expedient rhetoric. I mean, it just is. I mean, I'll remind you all of what I pointed out earlier, which is when Biden passed the American Recovery Act, that same month, inflation overcame wages. So
the Inflation Reduction Act.
Well, I said to them, I said, let me help you guys out just a little bit. When policies are passed, they have a start date. Okay. So if you're doing anything outside of that start, and sometimes they have an end date. I said not many, but sometimes they do. And if you are not abiding by those that legislation, you are now breaking the law. So this notion that his policies are, just kind of, we're feeling the effects of them now, but we didn't feel them, before, is absurd, because they have a start date. This is when they go into effect. It's not like, they can just do whatever they want to do. Another moment where the room kind of went quiet, because it's like that's such a stupid thing to say. Anyway, I just want to say that. Go ahead.
No. You're absolutely right. The markets respond rapidly to political policy.
Yes,
is what it is.
Even beforehand, they speculate. But yeah, this is the same party, Quisha. This is the same.
They do exactly
the same policies as Barack Obama. Remember, he came out and said that the United States is in a stage of decline, and it's my job and others like me to manage the decline. Remember when he said that? And then, of course, everyone remembers that famous moment in that town hall. Where he said, for Trump, he says that he can bring these jobs back. How? What is he going to do? I mean, what kind of magic wand does he have? It's about a want, Obama, or perhaps a no. Yeah. You didn't know how, but I don't think you wanted to anyway. Talking about what does Donald Trump have a magic wand? Oh, please. Where was your wand? I guess you must have lost yours. It was probably stuck up his ass somewhere. Talking about where's Trump's magic wand. And then lo and behold, they said, well, we'll never get, the growth, economic growth will never reach, what was it, 3%, 4%? And again, Trump did exactly that. And where was Obama? Nowhere to be found. This is the same Obama who, of course, in 2009, remember, guys, when he lit up the White House in the colors of the Chinese Communist flag to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Communist Revolution in China of 1949. This is the same man, same policy, same party. But yet, what is Kamala's economic policy? We need to know. We need to see. You know what it is. Go read Lenin. You know what it is.
We've seen this before. We've seen this movie before.
We've seen it 1,000 times. We need to see no damn policy from her.
You lost them at Reed.
There you go.
LB for LB says these people push communism so easily because most don't understand communist language and tactics. Progressive, quote unquote, working peoples, etc. And you'll remember that when Kamala Harris was running for president in 2020, what was her campaign slogan? Kamala for the people. Like, what are we doing? Kamala for the people. The people is par for the course. Communist rhetoric. Exactly. Let's see here. Derek Perry, government printing money, thereby devaluing the U.S. dollar is what causes inflation. There you go. Businesses react by having to raise the cost because they have to afford it. They now devalue dollar. 100%. Economics 101. Ty left us 5 more pounds. I mean, Ty coming in clutch tonight. He says the issue with the red pill is, although it is, let's see here, unethical. Am I reading that right?
And antithetical to Marxism.
Again, public school educated.
Now you can't blame the public school on that, Chad. It's some doggone glasses. Okay?
The print is so small. The issue with red pill is, although it is antithetical to Marxism, it teaches hedonism
and idolatry.
And idolatry of the many charlatans there, not family and God. You're absolutely right.
I again, that's why I wanted to preface what I said just strictly as it pertains to a lot of men, particularly black men, and their opinions on Kamala. That's why I preface my comments by saying I agree with you, Ty, that on net, I think the message of the black manosphere has been negative overall. But as it pertains to this one specific issue, I think that the black manosphere or the red pill is having this effect. And as far as the election cycle is concerned, that's all I meant. I know I even saw some people, Jesus loves you. We love Jesus loves you. Always a fan, always here showing love. They're not too fond of Kevin Samuels. And that's why I didn't want to bring up his name, because I know he's very controversial figure. So I didn't want people getting too emotional and getting distracted. The only thing I was simply trying to make the point to say, as Blanche so eloquently pointed out, that I think that ever since the dawn of the Black manosphere, particularly the rise in popularity of Kevin Samuels, I think it has had such an effect on Black men that it is causing them to recoil away from Kamala. That's all I was saying, guys.
100%. We'll get to the rest of the super chats later. With that, I'll leave it back to the beautiful and intelligent and our gracious host, Miss Quisha King.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I actually have a question for Blanche, though, that I've been wanting to ask. So I wanted to know.
You mean axe?
How? Yeah, let me ask you. How did you? Let's see. How do I get us? How did you come? I can't remember. How did you get into the? How did you get? What's the term they call? Not red pilled, but. Or I mean red pill, but in the political way. I forget. Like, what was your wake up
what they call
call?
it, black
was
pill?
it COVID or was it before that?
Yeah, I think Blanche said it was
Black
COVID.
pill, when you think everything is doomed, we're going
that's not it.
like it's over.
I think they're calling it red pill too, though.
I mean, I think it started happening in the end of 2019. It started happening. I think it, and then once the COVID happened, it kind of, had me just looking at everything. But I would say it was happening 2019. You got to think I was dating a young lady, and she was the epitome of the strong Black queen. She was PhD.
Strong, SKRONG.
She was very accomplished, PhD. She's the epitome, light skin, long hair. She was everything that, but she was also very, she was conservative when it came to relationships. Like most women, they're conservative in the fact that they want a man and the children. But outside of that, it was, woke. And so, in 2020, when I started getting this information, I would, share it with her, thinking, we can learn together.
Yeah.
But I quickly learned that, the Bliggities don't like any kind of new information or truth. So talking with her a lot made me, start to research more and question, because she was involved in all this, the mental health field, involved in all these woke programs. She's from Oakland, just all this stuff. So she really helped me, as far as, researching all this stuff. And then so looking into BLM, watching people like Jericho Green, Charleston White, before he blew up. So I would just say COVID, and I would also say that I think my waking up moment was there was a tweet by Donald Trump, and I said to myself, "There's no way he tweeted this." And so, I did the controversial thing. I actually went to his Twitter account and I looked through. And I found the actual tweet of what he actually said. And so I posted on Facebook that I was going to enlighten the people and help them out. Like, listen, this is what he actually tweeted. He didn't actually say that. When I tell you, Black people, when I put that tweet up,
Wrangler.
Oh my goodness. They unleashed on me. And I said, wait a minute, Black folks told me they don't care what the real tweet says. He's racist and that's it. And I had a god brother in 2019. I'll never forget this. My god brother my entire life. And I remember I put a post on Facebook and I said, it's impossible for Trump to be the most racist president because we have presidents that actually own slaves. I said, so he can't be the most racist. That post, people got mad. But my god brother went to the family and told everybody that I was a Trump supporter. Keep in mind, I really wasn't. I was still woke. I mean, made that observation.
Yeah.
But
You just happen to have a thought.
I just happened to have a thought. One time, I thought.
Right.
And my god brother, when I tell you he you can't disown me, but he god brothered me. He
right.
He excommunicated you.
Yeah, he excommunicated me, and basically the argument he had was that Trump was the most racist president, even though he didn't own slaves. And so that kind of I'm not lying. I'm telling you, he literally was arguing with me about how he's the most racist. And so that kind of woke me up a little bit, but I was still obligatory. I thought he was just dumb. But when 2020 hit, Quisha, I really my ex, we used to talk these conversations, and I was like, but wait, I just showed you I just showed you the truth. Like you can see it. Didn't matter. Like her mind was, and so yeah. But my god brother, may rest.
So that's why you broke up.
Yeah.
He's
you
funny.
and the young lady you were dating.
What'd you say?
That's why you and the young lady you were dating broke up.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I remember one time she got upset because I told her, I said, they were singing WAP. I said when Joe Biden and Kamala won, they're outside the White House and they were singing WAP. And she's like, no, they weren't. That's not. I said, yes, they were. She said, no, they weren't. There's no way they would do that. There's no way. I said, listen to me. The people that you support was outside singing WAP after they said that Donald Trump was wrong for talking about they would let him or let somebody grab him by the whatever. They're out there singing about how they got a WAP. Mm-hmm. So she argued me up and down. It's not true. It's not true. Boy, when I played that video, when I tell you she went off, listen to me. She went off on me.
Yeah.
She went off on me. She got mad at me. Yes. She got mad at me. How dare you? Like, I'm talking about going off because I said, wait a minute.
I don't understand. What was her, how dare you what?
She said basically, I enjoyed showing her this, truth. Because when they were out there singing, I was like doing like this. I was doing that, but she got mad because I was doing a little dance. And so of course, she made it about the dance and me doing that and about all this versus them actually singing the WAP song in front of the White House. But she went off. That was the start of the demise right there, honestly. It just went downhill from there, or should I say?
And it's crazy, Blanche. Like
I was asking because I feel, what we were talking about before. Sorry, I think my computer is lagging. But what I was asking because what we were talking about before with, one plants, one waters, but God gives the increase. And it was, all these little steps that led you to, the discovery. And if those people, the people that you read or people that were, putting out truth, doing the things that we do now, if they wouldn't have been there, that's a part of the process. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm grateful, because it's like we're doing this now and then we can look back and there are going to be people that come after us who are, going to have their own influence and things like that. And they'll be looking at some of the things that we do and saying like, wow, helping to enlighten their minds. So I was just curious because I couldn't really remember how this came to be for you. I think Chad has always been conservative. I don't think, and
you know that. I sense a little shade. I sense a bit of shade throwing. I said I sense a bit of shade throwing on your part.
No. Well, from what I understand, I think you've always you just never really bought into the Democrat stuff. If I'm
that's because of upbringing. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
and Blanche, I just want to say what your god brother saying that Trump was the most racist president, man. He's the most. He is the current. He is the current thing, right? He is the newest thing on their minds. It's the same things they're saying about Trump. They said about Bush. They said about his father. They said about Reagan. They said, I mean, you know, so mind you, we'll look back on this 10, 15, 20 years from now, and then whoever the next rising, shining star in the Republican Party is, they're going to say the same things about him. But what's funny to me is that these people, I like the point that you made, Blanche, on you've made it a few times, but I know just recently you did a live just talking about how people, when it comes to Democrats, they never have the argument about it not mattering. But see, when they get proven wrong about something, then all of a sudden it's not, well, wow, maybe I need to reevaluate the way I think. It's, well, nah, I'm out. I'm an independent. I'm moderate. I ain't voting anyway. I don't care about the politics. It's just not. It's just like, nah, but that's just cowardice. You don't want to own up to the fact that you're ignorant about what's going on, and in an attempt to save face, now all of a sudden you want to claim it doesn't matter, right? Because it's all dirty and they're all bad and they're all crooked anyway. You know what I mean? But it's like, but at the end of the day, you know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. If you're going to vote, just go ahead and vote for Democrats. I guess they're the lesser of the two evils, as they say, quote unquote. But yet still, they call us coons and sellouts and so on and so forth. But they're the ones who are openly admitting or are willing, you know, on occasion to admit that the Democrat Party is bad, but we must still vote for them anyway, because at least they are willing to give us stuff. But yet they call us the sellouts and the Uncle Toms. It's like, no, you the one with the house nigga mentality. It's like, yeah, massa bad, but we got to stay with massa because at least massa gonna feed us. At least massa gonna clothe us. At least massa gonna educate us. At least massa gonna give us a place to stay. He gonna build some houses for us.
I've yet to see one Black Republican or conservative dancing for Donald Trump.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I can't get on social media without seeing Roland Martin twerking or dancing.
Roland Martin, Steve Harvey.
Wait. Have
Ricky
y'all
Smiley.
seen that thing that Tariq Nasheed put out? I dance. Oh,
dance,
that thing is hilarious. Oh my goodness.
I dance with
So
Vassal.
bring it. Yeah,
But
Yeah,
hold
but
up.
then again, and you got this division, this schism within the bliggity black community, because you got the Tariq Nasheeds and the Dr. Umar types who look at the quote unquote black bourgeoisie like Ricky Smiley, like D.L. Hughley, like Steve Harvey, like Charles Barkley, and on and on and on. They regard them as the quote unquote black sellouts because they bought into the system, and in so doing, they have pacified the masses of black people by giving them hope that they can maybe find success, because these people aren't revolutionary or radical enough. So you got Umar Johnson and Tariq Nasheed kind of backing away from this whole Kamala train thing, right? And calling them out for being the sellouts and the coons and what have you. And so you know, you'll never see me going up reposting something that Umar Johnson said, like, oh, I agree with Umar Johnson. Look at what Umar is starting to wake up. Now Umar ain't waking up to jack, you know what, but I've set that aside for a second. But it's just funny to me how D.L. Hughley and the rest of them pretends like it's us when they are in fact the ones with the house nigga mentality. My homeboy Sub-Zero called it. They running around with that BET award show logic, trying to make you think that they know something, telling you to watch Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, go watch Rachel Maddow.
It's like
and
a nigga.
Joy Reid. They'll put you up on game.
Exactly.
Go do some research. Watch MSNBC.
MSNBC.
He said, Ricky Smiley said, she called me when my son died. Isn't she kind? Aren't they so kind? Joe Biden wrote me a letter. Aren't they so kind? Master's so kind. I was like, what kind of slave Negro movie is this?
Exactly.
He gave me the big part of the chicken.
But the irony, though, we're the sellouts because we telling you to stand up and do for yourself. But wow, I mean, just amazing. I know Massa bad, but Massa gonna take care of me. You messing it up.
Can you imagine?
Imagine
telling people to do their research, and then your very next line is go watch MSNBC, Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid.
Joy Reid.
What?
Joy Reid, give your history.
That's the opposite of doing your research. Quisha, do we have time to play that clip about, you know, when Kamala Harris is talking about, let's see, I think she's talking about like the economy or something like that. Check this out.
Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, where we remove the barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so. We will support smaller businesses that are trying to play by the rules and get ahead.
No, you won't.
So here's my problem with
No, you're
that.
not.
So you'll notice that she uses the term competition, right? Competition. And those of you who know anything about economics know that this word competition is traditionally it's free market rhetoric, right? Namely the fact that, you know, competition is good. If I have a business that sells sandwiches and Chuck has a business that sells sandwiches, the idea is whoever makes the best sandwiches will get the most revenue, will get the most customers, so such and so forth. But that's not what Kamala Harris means when she says competition. What she means is if I am making the better sandwiches and I'm getting the most customers, she says, or she believes that I am monopolizing the industry. And so when she says competition, she means let me now give Chuck money to make up for the money that he's not gaining because he's making poorer sandwiches. He's making poor quality sandwiches. So that's what she means when she says competition. She's trying to, in a sense, give money or give respite to those who are in the marketplace who are not performing as well. That's what she means when she says competition. So she's borrowing this language. And mind you, she's also borrowing language from Donald Trump's presidency circa 2016 to 2020, namely the fact that he was able to push the so-called opportunity zone, right? Opportunity zones. So she's saying, I'm going to come out with an opportunity economy. So she's trying to deliver to you a great value version, a off-brand version of what Donald Trump was doing, 4 years ago, by saying, I'm going to produce an opportunity economy. And mind you, I didn't even agree with the opportunity zones.
Right.
It's a different story for a different day. I don't believe that the government, the federal government especially, should have a hand in the economy and trying to equalize the marketplace and trying to give money and grants to individuals who just cannot perform at the same level of those of us who start from the ground and actually have a quality product that the consumer is interested in. If your business sucks, then the consumer will let you know as much by not patronizing your business. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles. That's just how it works. And so understand that when Kamala Harris says competition, she doesn't mean what those of us who believe in the free market believe. Rather, she believes that those who have businesses that are subpar, those who have businesses that are not performing, those who don't have the wherewithal or the mentality or the ability to produce, giving them some kind of government incentive, some kind of government kickback to, in a sense, equalize the system. This renders inflation. It doesn't render what you think it renders. So don't be tricked. Don't be bedazzled by what it is she's trying to say, because what she's talking about is all out Marxism. It's not free market enterprise at all.
Nobody should be allowed to fail, is what she's saying. No one should be allowed to fail. I don't know where they think the government.
Dangerous. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Keith.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You good? Go ahead, Keith.
Sorry. My computer was lagging. I was just gonna say, like, this idea that no one should fail is so. It's something that they teach you very early in the public school system. This not failing and not, even they're doing it more openly now. We're saying, that everybody gets a trophy and the we're just going to raise, reading scores. We're just going to pass people along. And no, people don't, again, another principle. If you don't fail, you can't know where you're weak, so you can get better. Failing is not failing truly. It's actually a learning experience. And so they're literally trying to keep you from gaining knowledge of any kind, because the only thing that they want you to know is what they tell you. So don't fail. Because when I started raising my kids differently, I said, okay, you guys are in charge of your lives. I'm not going to be doing all of this. I'm here to kind of supervise you at this point, but I'm not here to, dictate every single little thing to you, because you're too big, you're too old for that. And so just learning more about how children actually need to be raised is you have to let them fail so you can see what's really there. You gotta kind of kick the tires on your kids a little bit. Where are the gaps? Where are they strong? Where are they kind of good but need a little bit more work or whatever? And we need to do that with ourselves. Like you cannot just not let people fail. You have to. It's part of the human experience, because it's that pruning that the Bible talks about. It's going through the fire, because you come out better than what you went in. It is a fundamental part of life, and unless you do that, you won't get to your highest potential. You will not see the best part of your life. You just won't. And the left is really, that's one of their big pillars, I would say, that they really do not, they have this idea that, struggle is bad. And it's actually, it's good. It's actually really good. So anyway,
not only that, Quisha, but with the way economics and the way it works is that, I mean, when you say fail, I mean, that can mean a lot of different things. But like, for the sake of my comment right now, when I think of like failing, I mean, there are people like if for example, like look at I don't know, look at an automobile, right? I mean, look at an automobile that you may buy. I mean, the average person can't afford to spend, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 on a, brand new automobile, for example. But what you may see in that vehicle in the next 5 years or so, guess what? A cheaper automobile, or a lesser, more lower, I guess, tier brand of automobile. I throw some brands out there. Just everybody, everyday average folk own, whether it be Kias or Hondas or certain type of Fords, whatever. When you have this competition in the market, what is a fly $80,000-$90,000 Mercedes today? You'll find those same amenities, the same quality of car 5 years down the line, and say like a Kia or something like that, which is more affordable to the average American. That's the way in which it works. And when you talk about failing and the idea that everybody can be mega rich and everybody should be able to just succeed and everybody should be able to just do what they want. Well, of course, we all know here that by nature, things just don't work things just don't work that way. But the fact that you do have wealthy people, not government, but you do in fact have wealthy people, you'd be so, well, not you, but I mean the proverbial you, we'd be so surprised to know. I mean, in our wildest dreams, we couldn't fathom the sorts of things we could have at our disposal if government would, in fact, just get out of the way, man. I mean, you talk about some Jetson type hovercraft. We mess around, it'd be like the cartoon, the Jetsons. We could be doing any and everything. I mean, we have no idea exactly what we could be doing. And the people who aren't the best, the brightest, the sharpest, this and that, they still live lives of immense comfort, unlike anything previous centuries of human beings could have even fathomed. And that is thanks to the people who actually invest, the people who actually have ideas, and go through the painstaking toil to make those ideas a reality, to create whole new markets and industries where certain markets and industries never previously existed. They can find something for themselves and live a relatively wealthy life compared to those peoples that came before them. This is what rich people do. Not government, but this is what wealthy people do. This is what economies do. This is what the free market does. Man, government doesn't make life easier for poor people or people who aren't the best and the brightest. No, it's the capitalism, the free market system is what creates and lifts people. And as the old saying goes about the rising tide, capitalism does that. Governments can't do that, man. But I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but it should be common knowledge to everybody.
It unfortunately, people don't
And
study these things. They don't understand those principles.
And Mountain Woman in the comment section asked a good question, like, what does it even mean to be poor? I mean, what exactly does that even mean? The term poor or lower class has become this fanciful academic abstraction that people use in order to play games with your mind. Once again, to conjure up feelings of envy and resentment, so that they then turn over their freedoms and give more and more power to the government. It's crazy, man, because I couldn't care less about what somebody else is doing. I don't pocket watch. I don't care about your money. I don't care about what you're doing. I don't care, just respect mine and I respect yours, because the things that I do have, they're mine. I work hard for them and they belong to me. I ain't stunting what you got, because I'm proud of what I have, and I'm gonna use what I got, because what I have, the result of my hard work and my labor, and you do the same. I don't care about what you own, man. It's crazy.
It's so funny. Another thing too that's like a pillar of the left is this idea that they that poor is like some kind of an American thing, or something like that. But it's like poor people in America, compared to the rest of the world, are not really that poor. You know what I mean? And it's like, we don't even really know poor like that. Most Americans don't really know poor like that. You don't want no Indian poor. You don't want no, some countries in Africa poor. You don't want that kind of poor. And we wouldn't know what to do.
You remember that famous quote from Dinesh D'Souza? I think Dinesh D'Souza either said it or he heard someone else say it, and that was, it was in regards to their reason for wanting to immigrate to the United States. He said that, I want to immigrate to a country where all the poor people are fat. Because coming from a place like India, someone in Dinesh D'Souza's position understands exactly what it means to be poor. He understands it in ways that an American never can. We're going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Because of the success of liberalism, we have come to the point now where the slightest bit of discomfort is intolerable to most people, and so we create these create these contrivances, these controversies, and we engage in these all sorts of moral crusades to sort of fix problems that didn't require fixing in the first place. Half the time, the people who they claim that these measures taken up by the government are actually going to benefit didn't even see a problem with it in the first place. Same is true with the race issue or even the women's rights issue in the 1960s. Most women didn't feel as though being a woman had held them back in any way. But again, that's a separate conversation for another day.
Yeah. Propaganda. It was all propaganda. So just so much propaganda.
And you know what, Quisha? The poorest people in America are those white people in them hills and in the mountains over there. Those are the poor people. Appalachian Mountain. Them people, they're poor. You go to these cities, the homeless people have cell phones. So listen, those people are poor. We're talking about no shoes, that no teeth. That's impoverished. These people talking about they poor. You can't say you poor and you want to be comfortable. Poor folks want to survive. If you're truly poor, you just want to live and survive. This wanting to be comfortable, not wanting to be inconvenienced, that means you aren't poor. That means you're spoiled. And so, yeah, real poverty don't exist to me in the United States. You're not in the Appalachians. Like you said, India, I was in Africa, man. I seen dudes sleeping in the literal gutter. He was homeless, the gutter. Like his bed was the actual gutter where the water's running there, like sleep, like it was nothing. And so, and nobody helped him. Another thing is we don't respect the humanity that folks have in America. You go to them other countries, there ain't all these charities over there, people helping these people like that. These people ain't compassionate about. In them other countries, somebody could be on the ground struggling, they'll step right over. In America, you gonna call somebody's hurt, coming to your need. Them other countries, I reached to give that man some money, they grabbed my arm, said, "Don't give him nothing." I said, "Man, like he dying." They said, "We don't care." They said he did. They said he did something to dishonor his family. That's why he's looking like that. Don't help him. So in other countries, when people are down on their luck, there's not that much sympathy involved. That's an American thing. Truly, you can go to Mexico and see it. Africa, parts of Europe, Asia, where poverty is totally different.
All right, so tomorrow
I think
begins...
too that's the Christian part of our country.
Yeah.
Chad, do you want to run through? I think we got some more super chats. You want to just run through?
Yeah. I know we're at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I know Quisha has to get off any second now. So I wanted to just show this real quick. So tomorrow begins the inception or the commencement of the Democrat National Convention. And I said on previous shows that they will likely have an open convention. But just as we mentioned earlier, the DNC and the Democrats are trying to basically foist Kamala Harris as the nominee and are trying to squelch any dissenting voices amongst their party. And here is a recent, let's see here. Here's a recent, news coverage from ABC. This is from the chairman of the Democratic National Convention, the one who will be conducting, if you will, the Democrat National Convention. Says Harris has enough delegate votes to become Democratic presidential nominee, says the DNC chair. Here's a direct quote from him. He says, where'd it go? I think this was it. I'm so proud to confirm that Vice President Harris has earned more than a majority of votes from the convention delegates and will be the nominee of the Democratic Party following the close of voting on Monday, Harrison said during a campaign update video call on Friday. And so naturally what this means is, even to the extent that they do have individuals, delegates who tried to push back against the idea of Kamala being the nominee during the Democrat National Convention, you have the chairman on board, the one who's responsible for overseeing and conducting the series of events there at the convention, who is saying like, nope, it's Kamala. We're not even going to hear it, as far as those who would dare try to put someone else up or try to endorse someone else as the nominee. So the DNC and its leadership are on board with Kamala being the person, which means likely that there isn't going to be an open convention. So I'll be surprised, quite frankly, if someone does stand up and say, well, we think it's unfair how y'all are trying to foist Kamala Harris on us. We insist on someone else. It will be an interesting convention nonetheless, but my presumption is that the chairman will put an end to that in a swift manner. So if the panel doesn't have any response to that, we can get to the rest of these supers before we close it out. Where do we leave off? Okay, so
you left off with the pound, because the Stephen Carter should be the
Stephen Carter. Okay, so Ty left one, And then Stephen Carter said, no matter what happens in November, the media will still say that Trump only got 8 to 9% of the black vote. Be warned. And I think you're right. I mean, the media has demonstrated, as I said earlier, that they are 100% in Kamala's corner. So anything to try to undermine Trump, they'll do it. I mean, people who still believe the media at this point in American history, I don't know what else to say to you.
Deserve what you get.
Exactly. Let's say Tito P says, Chad, I appreciate you. I appreciate you promoting trades. I'm in the trades myself, union electrician. Also, on a side note, a lot of union members are not supporting Democrats anymore. You're right about that. I actually have a lot of friends who are union plumbers, and they say the same exact thing. So it'll be interesting to see how what the exit polls resemble or reveal as it relates to union members this November. We got one from Alethea 846, a super sticker, $5. Really appreciate it. We got one from Derek Franklin, says, great show. As a banker, Chuck and Chad, your comments about business owners, and the economy are spot on and refreshing to hear. I appreciate that. On behalf of myself and Chuck, we really appreciate that, because as a banker, I would imagine that most of what you hear on social media, especially, is a lot of hogwash. So we try to reflect the facts as much as we can here on the show. We got one from Willie Doc, a super sticker, $2. Thank you. We got one from Delmonte
Green Beans.
Delmonte Green Beans says, I'll call her Captain Pinto Bean. She looks like Mick Tonight from back in the day, Tonight? Giggling everywhere.
Remember Mac Tonight, the moon that Mac was singing with McDonald's?
Yeah.
What a mess. Vintage Goods 1551 Willie Kamala. Yeah, she's definitely communist.
Kamala.
Right.
Make no mistake about it. Star Baby, Chad is on fire tonight. They sure are.
Man.
Mr. Williams, COVID showed me that people will give in to the government. The government doesn't scare me. People scare me. So-called families and friends try to guilt me to take the jab, etc. I have
government
little hope.
Is made up of people.
Yeah, I'm about to say government is people, but I get his point.
Yep.
I get your point. Yes.
Keep it to yourself. Chad and Blanche, you guys are two pathetic coons and are a detriment to Black society. Blanche even has a mustache like Chad, so he's full coon like Chad. I thank you for the $5. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the $5.
Listen, keep the insults coming. We charge $5 per insult. Insults cost $5. We charge it.
Boy, that's got to be ignorant.
Imagine you spending your money to insult us. How dumb you gotta be? Like, how stupid do you have to be? How dumb you gotta be?
Man, he got it like that, man. He ain't stunning y'all. Throw money
day. Okay.
I wish I would pay some money to insult somebody. Like,
pick it up, boy. Pick it up off the ground.
Where they do
boy.
that at?
Don't mind if I do, sir.
Right.
Terman Family Bricks.
I dance.
Terman Family Bricks says, hey, Chad, I watched your recent video on the difference between Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, and it was fantastic. I even bought a picture like yours in the background. Guys and gal, Quisha King, keep up the good work. Cops for Trump. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I guess you're referring to that guy right there.
Amen.
Thank you.
The first time.
Very much appreciated. Rick Hampstead, he says, always a great show and great chat. God loves you all. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. It's always good to be reminded how much God loves us. Sir Tice, logical arguments, facts facts or as sold in buffoonish fashion, facts, etc. doesn't appeal to the black masses next week. You guys will have a ton of material from the conversation. Salute to you all. Thank you. Got one from Vintage Goods Willie again. Kamala. Culture Club.
Shout out.
And then we got one. We got from Matt Blaylock. They are providing abortion and
vasectomy at the DNC.
At the DNC.
Get your free abortions at the DNC.
Yeah, get your free abortion. Line up over here.
Listen, yes, no, wait. Okay, I don't want kids to not be here, but if the left keeps doing this to kids and women, and now getting vasectomies, they're gonna have less kids. So the left keeps doing that, and conservatives have more kids. Okay, so we'll have more conservatives than the left. All right,
simple mathematics.
That's the plan.
It's simple mathematics.
Simple math.
And with that, I'll give it back to the beautiful Miss Quisha King.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. Really quick, you guys. My fiance has encouraged me to put this out. So I created my own face wash. I had cystic acne. This was like years ago, and I couldn't find anything to fix it. And he was like, you know what? Your skin looks so great. He didn't want to try it at first, but he did. And his skin looks fantastic too. And so we've created a product. It's called Gold Blush, and the brand, it's God's stuff because it's all natural. But it has been working wonders on people's skin. I'm like, so just amazed at how wonderful this is working. So if you have any trouble with your skin, you can go and pick you up some of this at I'll put the link in the chat, but it's godsstuffbeauty.com. And I just want to say that this was a really great show, really great, a lot of great comments in the chat. And so we look forward to speaking with you guys next week. Same time, Sunday, 7:30-ish, because, you know, we are definitely still black. Okay?
Not me.
Quisha, call Kamala, help you get your product off the ground. You know, small business, right? Small business. You and the barbecue pork chop man. Whatever you sell.
I don't know. Can you put that slug back on the screen, please? Can you put that slithering, slimy slug?
And by the way, like, and by the way, he you'll notice how in 2013 he said that he was selling barbecue sauce, and then in 2020 he was able to move into a restaurant. The reason you were able to move into the restaurant, my dear brother, is because of the PPP loan.
Right.
Like, what are we talking about? So you're up here vouching for Kamala Harris when you was able to move into your restaurant because of a policy passed by Donald Trump.
Oh yeah.
I'm just calling it how I see it.
Didn't Trump I have a lot of problems with COVID, but he did tell them that, okay, let's open up. Like, we can't keep doing this. Like, we got to open up. So, anyway, I mean, how were you able to have a eat in a restaurant?
Owner of Mike D's Barbecue Smokehouse.
We opened Mike D's in 2013 as a barbecue sauce company. During the pandemic, we had to pivot as things shut down, and we've expanded to the restaurant that we are in now. We saw the way that Trump left small business owners behind. We know that he'll only work to make the rich richer, even at our expense, if given another chance. On the other hand, Vice President Harris has made it a priority to help small business access the capital they need to get started and to grow.
Look, Fatso.
Goofy ass had to write that down.
You were able to move into your restaurant because of the PPP loan. Like, we all know what's going on. Like, we all know what it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got that money from the government. You moved into a restaurant because of the PPP loan.
Goofy ass had to write that
into law
down.
by Donald Trump.
Right.
And so, and you didn't have to pay the money back,
Right.
and that's why you moved into your restaurant. And so and so to sit there and say we know Donald Trump doesn't care about small businesses, like you're capping, you are capping, like you're giving misinformation. Like, what are we talking about?
I mean, can I just say this real quick, Chad, before we get out of here? It's just crazy how people don't listen. Say what you want to say about Trump, and this is what kills me. And I heard Charlie Kirk say this recently because he was challenged by someone in the audience was trying to challenge Charlie Kirk on his Christian bona fides because of his support for Trump. And Charlie Kirk said something. He said, of course, he pointed to the Bible and he came up with some examples as to certain men in the Bible who went on to fulfill God's plan, God's mission, and went on to do great things. And these were extremely, extremely flawed men, but God still used them, right? But Charlie said that it's funny how we love to talk about Donald Trump's shortcomings, but we never talk about his virtues. It's like you want to throw away all of that, even though what's right before you and the thing that's worth overcoming, the thing that I guess is that needs to be defeated. There seems to be one man, at least on a national scale, as far as politics are concerned, that's willing to at least put forth an effort at great risk to himself to try and defeat that thing. But because he isn't a perfect man, then you can't support him at all. So we talk about his shortcomings, but we don't talk about his virtues. But yet still, when you look at people like Kamala, because I'm listening to this guy and he's making it seem as though, well, Kamala Harris cares more. She actually cares about the little, but she cares. But how come when myself, when I look at Donald Trump, I see a human being. I see someone. I see past him being white. I see past the fact that he's wealthy and privileged and all this stuff. And I see, I don't know him personally, of course it goes without saying, but I see someone who is actually genuine, someone who really cares about people in a way that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or any of these politicians, even your Republican politicians, couldn't care less. So I don't know. It's just funny. It's just strange to me. Real recognize real, right? And I could see right through phony. And it's just funny to me how, again, Donald Trump does it. Yeah, he says he's a politician, right? He's kind of has to play the game, right? But for the most part, I don't see phony. But when I look at Kamala Harris, I see phony. I see someone who couldn't care less about little people, couldn't care less about struggling people. But yet they claim as though Donald Trump is just this privileged guy who's just looking out for the privileged, the wealthy, and the powerful. But when I look at it, I see the opposite. It's just funny how real don't recognize real.
I think it goes back to when you have to, if the right is imperfect in one area, it justifies the left entirely. So Trump could have checked every box except one, and that one box justifies them not voting for or supporting Trump. Meanwhile, nobody ever questions Kamala's morality. They never question Joe Biden's morality. Even the Clintons have public immorality. Nobody even questions that. Right. So it's just funny that they hold Donald Trump to such a high. Matter of fact, I'd venture to say that Donald Trump has been held to the highest standard of any public figure in the history of the world. There's been no public figure that we've ever seen that's been held to that high of a standard to where he can't even make a joke. Like He can't even be on there and just crack a simple joke without the media going crazy. Like we've never seen a person that the media hangs on every single word that Donald Trump said. I'm talking about every misquote him out of context. I'm like, he can't even say anything. He can't even say good morning. Oh, he's racist. He can't even say good night. Oh, he's racist. I'm like, my goodness.
Larry Elder said that this is Larry Elder. This is Larry Elder. This is not me. Larry Elder once said, and I thought it was brilliant. He said that if Donald Trump was y'all probably heard this, if Donald Trump was on a boat somewhere, he was out at sea at water somewhere, and a strong gust of wind, he was on the boat with other people, obviously, and a strong gust of wind blew off somebody's hat and it fell into the water. And Donald Trump got off the boat and walked on water and grabbed the person's hat. The next day, the headlines would read, Donald Trump can't swim. It doesn't matter what he did. The man can walk on water. The headlines the next day would be Donald Trump can't swim. Remember when they ran with this USA Today, I'll never forget, ran with the story headline, Donald Trump has small hands. Remember when he was giving a speech and he grabbed a bottle of water with 2 hands? They actually made fun of him for having small hands. This ran in the USA Today,
Obama got small hands.
publication. His hands are too small. Your boy Anderson Cooper gave Stormy Daniels a platform to talk about how small Donald Trump's penis was. On CNN, it's supposed to be a respected news network. They're talking about the size of the man's genitalia. But yet and still, as Blanche mentioned, from Clinton on down to, you don't even want to know about Jack Kennedy, JFK Jr., one of the biggest reprobates in the history of presidential politics. But on the Democrat, he's a hero. He's a hero to even a lot of us on the right. So, yeah, man, it is what it is. I'm sorry. I kind of said something and got us going another 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, it's all good. But we will be back on next Sunday, 7:30-ish. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please follow Chad, Chuck, Blanche on Instagram, Twitter, and myself, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And subscribe if you have not. Chad also has the membership, so you can become a member to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.